My name is Lin Haochen. I woke up freezing cold and found myself in a tiny stone room instead of my normal bedroom. My nice bed was gone, replaced by a hard wooden plank with a thin blanket. The room had stone walls, a small window, a broken cabinet, and almost nothing else. I opened the cabinet and found some old cotton coats, worn-out gloves, and a cloth bag with rock-hard bread and a bottle of half-frozen water. That's when I knew this wasn't a prank. I wiped the frost off the small window and looked outside. Everything was covered in snow and ice. The city I knew was gone, just frozen ruins of buildings sticking out of the ice like gravestones. No cars, no people, nothing but howling wind. Then a voice appeared in my head. It told me I was in something called the Winter World, a frozen apocalypse where survivors have to fight to stay alive. It warned me about blizzards, monsters that come out at night, and that killing those monsters drops supplies. It also said every survivor gets a starter pack and a special talent. A glowing red gift bag appeared in front of me. Inside were 3 balls of light, a basic flashlight, a food package, and a weapon box. When I opened the first one, I felt something awaken deep inside me, my talent. It's called tenfold enhancement, and it lets me boost every item I get, choosing either quantity or quality. For the flashlight, I picked quality. It transformed from a cheap little light into a high-tech military-grade tool that can light up 300 meters, blind weak monsters, last 240 hours, and work in temperatures down to -100 degrees. For the food package, I also picked quality. The plain water became energy-restoring water that fights off the cold, and the hard bread became a super nutrient bar. Just a small piece covers a full day's energy. Though I realized picking quantity might sometimes be smarter for food, since quality gives me less total eating time. Then I turned to the last light ball, the weapon box. In a world full of monsters and endless winter, a weapon is what I need most. I held my breath and reached out to open it. I chose quality again for the weapon box. Golden light exploded and filled the whole room. What landed in my hand was no ordinary crossbow. It was a beast. The body was made of dark gold metal with icy patterns running across it. The string hummed with power, and it came with 10 arrows that glowed red like they were made of fire. The system called it the flame crossbow. Before I could even admire it, a terrifying howl erupted outside my door. Something was slamming against it, hard. The wooden door was cracking apart. I couldn't help but think, they gave me a stone house but a wooden door? Seriously? I quickly bit off a piece of my enhanced nutrition bar. Warmth spread through my body instantly, loosening up my stiff hands. Then I raised the flame crossbow and aimed straight at the door. The door shattered. A huge wolf-like creature covered in dark purple scales burst in. It was the size of a small cow, with red eyes and claws that scratched deep marks into the stone floor. They called it a Frostfong wolf. It was only 5 meters away. I pulled the trigger. The arrow shot out like a meteor, hit the wolf right in the head, and then flames erupted from inside its body. In seconds, the whole beast was burned to nothing. I even smelled cooked meat. I got a supply box as a reward, though I was a little disappointed my talent didn't activate on loot drops. Still, without my tenfold enhancement, I probably would have died. That made me wonder, how were other survivors handling this? And the answer was, not well. Across the winter world, everyone faced the same attack. A young guy barely survived by blindly stabbing his knife into the wolf's neck, saved partly by his double damage talent. A big muscular man with a strength boost talent charged head-on with an iron rod, but the wolf broke his arm and killed him in seconds. A thin girl stayed calm, dodged the wolf using furniture, stabbed it in the eye, then escaped through the window. She survived but couldn't kill it. An old soldier moved like a professional, dodging and striking with a spear until he pierced the wolf's heart cleanly, thanks to his precision strike talent. But these were the lucky few. In just half a day, about half of all survivors in the winter world were already dead. Cold wind was pouring in through the broken door, and my hands and feet were going numb again. I knew if I didn't fix that door, I'd freeze to death before any monster got me. I picked up the glowing orb, my reward from killing the wolf. I prayed for something useful. What I got was an 8-person dining table. I couldn't believe it. I killed that terrifying wolf, and my reward was furniture? But then I calmed down and thought about it. The table could actually block the doorway. And since my tenfold enhancement triggered, I chose quality again. The wooden table transformed into something incredible. It became hard as steel, dark gray, with sharp edges. It was basically a giant iron door disguised as a table. It was way too heavy for me to carry, but luckily items from the orbs can be placed wherever you want the first time you get them. I wedged the ironwood table against the broken doorway, then stuffed the wolf's body on one side and the old cabinet on the other to seal the gaps. The wind finally stopped coming in, and the room started warming up. That's when I noticed the window was actually big enough to climb through, about half a meter wide, and only 1.5 meters off the ground. I'd been so panicked earlier that I missed it completely. It could work as an exit and an emergency escape route. At least I wasn't trapped. With the room secured, hunger and exhaustion hit me hard. I broke off a small piece of the enhanced nutrition bar and ate it. It melted in my mouth with a gentle wheat flavor, and warmth spread through my whole body instantly. Just that tiny piece brought me back to full strength. If I could choose, I'd honestly rather go back to my old life, even with the mortgage and the boring job. At least I didn't have to worry about getting eaten. But hiding in the stone house wasn't a long-term plan. Supplies would run out, and monsters could come back anytime. If I wanted to survive, I had to go out and explore. I climbed through the window and stepped into knee-deep snow. The cold crept up through my boots, but the warmth from the crossbow and the nutrition bar kept me going. I only had 9 fire arrows left, so I had to be careful with every shot. I circled the stone house first, checking my surroundings. Everything was dead quiet except for the wind. Then I picked east and started walking. I turned on my enhanced flashlight, and its powerful beam lit up hundreds of meters ahead. The sudden light startled some small creatures hidden in the snow. Their fur blended in perfectly with the white ground, and they scattered in every direction. What are those things? I shone my flashlight ahead and saw a group of small creatures. About a dozen palm-sized animals covered in white fur with pointy noses and thin tails, scrambling around in the snow. Their eyes glowed green in the dark. Then a message popped into my head. Apparently, killing the Frostfang wolf was just an entrance test to officially enter the winter world. As a reward, I gained a new ability called Detection that gives me basic info about creatures. These little things were called snow rats. Low danger, no real attack instinct, but they like to chew on supplies. I relaxed a bit, thinking they were harmless. That was a mistake. I spotted a frozen cloth bag at the bottom of a hole the rats had dug. In a world where even a scrap of food is precious, I wasn't going to pass that up. I pulled it out. It was heavy, maybe 20 or 30 pounds. The system called it an unknown supply pack, but then I noticed the snow rats were getting closer to me, not running away. Before I could react, a deep rumble came from underground. The rats froze, then screamed and disappeared into cracks in the ice. Something huge was moving beneath the snow, and my flashlight seemed to be attracting it. I shut off the light immediately and threw myself face down into the snow. The cold was brutal, but the warmth from my flame crossbow kept me from freezing completely. I lay there, not moving, until the rumbling faded into the distance. When I finally stirred, I found a snow rat right in front of my face, staring at me with its creepy green eyes. I jumped up and turned on the flashlight. That's when I saw it. The rats around me had blood on them. My blood. They'd been gnawing on me while I was lying still. My arms and legs had bite marks, though the cold had frozen the wounds, so I barely felt the pain. I felt stupid. I'd been too careless, acting like nothing could touch me. These snow rats were still monsters. They weren't afraid of me at all. If I'd stayed down any longer, they would have eaten me alive. I wanted to fight back, but I only had 9 arrows left. I couldn't waste them on rats. So I grabbed the supply pack and headed back to my stone house, only about 100 meters away. But walking through deep snow was painfully slow, and the rats kept following me whenever my flashlight wasn't pointed at them. It took me 15 minutes to get back. I tossed the pack through the window, climbed in after it, and locked the window shut. The window was solid. No way the rats could chew through it. I sat on the bed and aimed the flashlight at the door. The ironwood table blocked most of the gap, but there were still small cracks the rats might squeeze through. Keeping the light on would drain the battery, and the light leaking outside might attract bigger creatures. But with the rats scratching at the walls outside, I had no choice. I looked down at my wounds, purple and frozen stiff. No bleeding for now, but in a world with no medicine, infection could kill me just as easily as any monster. I turned my attention to the supply pack. Let's see what's inside. I took a deep breath and opened the unknown supply pack. I desperately needed medicine, a regular weapon, and better clothes. The first item was a box of basic wound medicine. I chose quality for the enhancement. It transformed into something called Ice Marrow Healing Salve. It could heal flesh wounds fast, stop pain, and cure frostbite. I immediately rubbed it on all my injuries. The relief was instant. The missing chunks of flesh from the rat bites actually grew back right before my eyes, which was honestly a little creepy to watch. But the salve used up fast, 1/3 gone just from treating all those small bites. Next came a heavy black machete called a mountain cleaver. I picked quality again without hesitation. I needed a close combat weapon badly since my crossbow arrows were limited. The knife transformed into the mountain slasher, dark blade with golden patterns, razor sharp, wrapped in beast hide grip, and only about 5 pounds. It felt perfect in my hand. Now I had the crossbow for long range and the knife for close fights. The last item was a box of compressed biscuits. This time, I chose quantity. I'd learned my lesson with the nutrition bar. Quality gives better effects, but less food overall. Right now, I needed to stockpile. The 6 biscuits multiplied to 60. That's enough to keep me fed for 2 whole months. As someone from China, hoarding food just feels right in my bones. Then I heard the snow rats go quiet outside the window. That made me nervous. I grabbed my knife and went to check the door. Sure enough, the rats had found the gaps around the ironwood table. My flashlight kept blinding them, but they wouldn't leave. I pulled out the wolf's corpse that was blocking one side. Its outer surface was covered in tiny scratch marks from the rats. Then I looked at the rats circling outside the gap, and something in me snapped. These little monsters had bitten me, followed me, and tried to eat me alive. I swung the mountain slasher through the gap and cut 2 rats clean in half. Blood splashed onto the snow and froze instantly. I didn't even look at the loot notification. I was furious. Old grudges and new, all boiling over at once. The blood drove the remaining rats into a frenzy. 30 or 40 of them rushed toward the opening with their green eyes glowing. But the moment they got close, the flashlight blinded them and broke their formation. It was almost funny. I kept swinging through the gap, and with the rats blinded and stumbling, they were completely helpless. One by one, I cut them down. My arm was aching from all the swinging, and my fingers were frozen purple. Once the fighting rush faded, exhaustion hit me like a wave. I looked through the gap. The snow outside was covered in dead rats, blood already frozen into ice crystals. A few survivors scurried away into cracks in the ice. They were finally scared off. I used some healing salve on my frozen hand, then squeezed through the gap to collect all the loot. It wasn't much: 36 bone fragments, 21 food scraps, and 14 damaged rat skins. Not impressive, but nothing is worthless here. Bones could become armor, rat skins could be sewn into warm clothing, and food scraps speak for themselves. I stuffed everything inside, sealed the door gap again with the wolf corpse, and collapsed against the wall. I was completely drained. I didn't even make it to the bed, just curled up against the cold stone wall, still gripping my knife. The flashlight stayed on, pointing at the door. The warmth from the flame crossbow kept me from freezing solid. In just a few hours, I'd fought a giant wolf, got ambushed by rats, and slaughtered dozens of them at my door. My nerves had been maxed out the entire time. The second I relaxed, sleep took me. That was my first night in this frozen apocalypse. Exhausting, terrifying, but somehow I survived. I woke up the next morning shivering violently. The coldest part of the day is around 6 in the morning, and I'd slept in a torn cotton coat against a stone wall with no blanket. My throat stung and my voice was hoarse. I prayed I wasn't getting a fever. There's no medicine for that here. I checked the door. The flashlight was still on, the ironwood table hadn't moved, and no rats had gotten in. Lucky. I used the last bit of healing salve on my stiff body, then ate a piece of nutrition bar to warm up. Once I was alert again, I went to the window and wiped away the frost. The storm had calmed down, but something outside made my blood run cold. There was a trail in the ice, 1/2 meter wide, pressed deep into the ground, winding from the distance, stopping about 100 meters from my stone house, then turning away. Something enormous had crawled past during the night. I gripped my knife so hard my knuckles turned white. I had to upgrade this stone house, and fast. After passing the wolf test, I'd gained access to a survival system that told me basic information about this world. One key detail: the stone house can be upgraded, and items have levels too. The higher the level, the more powerful even a simple knife can become. I stretched, warmed up my stiff joints, and did a final gear check. Flashlight on my waist with plenty of battery, mountain slasher on one side, flame crossbow on the other with all 9 arrows, pockets stuffed with 60 compressed biscuits, and one last use of healing salve carefully stored away. That's everything I own in this world. Time to head out. I looked at the door sealed by the ironwood table and knew it wouldn't hold against something truly powerful, like whatever left that half-meter-wide trail in the ice last night. I needed to upgrade the stone house, and for that I needed special upgrade cards that only drop from monsters or special resource points. I climbed out the window into the morning cold. My detection ability told me it was negative 58 degrees with light snow, though the snowflakes were the size of feathers. I decided to explore north today, since I'd gone east yesterday. The north side was completely different. Uneven ground, twisted dead trees buried in snow. I almost fell into a deep snow pit at one point, which scared me badly. Falling in completely could mean freezing to death on the spot. Then my foot hit something hard. I shone my flashlight down and froze. It was a frozen corpse, a person locked in ice, wearing strange animal skin clothes I'd never seen before. Their face was twisted in fear, but also weirdly smiling. The clothing wasn't from Earth. This world had other people in it before us. Before I could think more about it, I heard crunching footsteps from the trees. I whipped out the flame crossbow and aimed. A wolf-like creature stepped out, smaller than the Frostfong wolf, covered in dark gray fur with fangs sticking out. My detection said it was an ice ridge wolf, low danger level, and it could drop beast skin, bones, and a level 1 orb. Then a second one appeared behind it. Wolves are pack animals. I couldn't afford to wait. The first wolf didn't seem to recognize the crossbow as a threat. When it got within 10 meters, I fired. The arrow went straight into its open mouth and exploded in flames inside its body. It dropped dead instantly. The second wolf froze, clearly terrified by what just happened. But I couldn't show mercy. I aimed and fired again, but this one was ready. It dodged sideways and my arrow missed, exploding into a tree behind it. 7 arrows left. That number hit me like a punch. The wolf was furious now. It charged straight at me like a cannonball, fangs aimed at my throat. I knew I couldn't hit a fast-moving target with my lousy aim. So I blocked with the crossbow in my left hand and pulled out the mountain slasher with my right, swinging it hard. Metal clashed against fangs with a shower of sparks. The impact nearly knocked the knife out of my hand. But the wolf kept coming. Its massive jaws were inches from my face. I did the only thing I could think of. I shoved the crossbow barrel deep into the wolf's open mouth, every muscle in my arms straining, and screamed, "Die!" I shoved the crossbow deep into the wolf's throat and pulled the trigger. The explosion was massive. A pillar of fire blasted through the wolf's head, neck, and chest, tearing it apart from the inside. The shockwave threw me backward into the snow. I was coughing, covered in ash and blood, but alive. I used the very last of my healing salve on my burned and torn-up left hand. That meant my medical supplies were completely gone now. I couldn't stay. The noise from the fight would attract more creatures. I grabbed all the loot, beast skins, bones, and 2 level 1 orbs, and sprinted back to the stone house through the deep snow. The moment I climbed through the window and shut it, I looked back outside, and my blood went cold. At the edge of the dead forest, dozens of dark shapes were emerging, an entire wolf pack, and leading them was a massive wolf king, bigger than a tiger, staring right at my stone house with its glowing green eyes. But it didn't attack. It just let out a low growl, grabbed the 2 burned wolf corpses with its fangs, tossed them to the pack. Food is food in this world, even dead packmates, and then turned and led the wolves away. I think there's some kind of newbie protection on the stone house. That wolf king could have easily destroyed this place, but it chose not to. Whatever the reason, I was grateful. Once I calmed down, I looked at my loot. The wolf materials were way better than rat drops. Thick bones the size of my head and beautiful blue-gray, pelts big enough to wrap around my whole arm, warm to the touch. I opened the first orb, an 18-liter barrel of water. I chose quantity this time. Water is life. and you can only survive 3 days without it. 10 barrels appeared, taking up a third of my tiny room. This house really is too small. The second orb made my heart stop. A black card with golden edges floated into my hand. An upgrade card. The one thing I needed most. My talent triggered, and I chose quality without hesitation. The basic upgrade card transformed into an advanced upgrade card. Instead of raising an item by 1 level, it could raise items below level 5 by 2 whole levels. That's like getting 2 upgrade cards in one. My hands were shaking with excitement. I knew exactly what to use it on. Time to upgrade this stone house. I used my detection ability on the stone house for the first time. Level 1, basic wind protection, a little warmth, and minimal defense. Not great. Use the upgrade card. The advanced upgrade card shattered into golden sparks that sank into the walls. The whole house started shaking. The walls thickened and became smooth, sealing every crack. The ceiling rose higher, and the space expanded dramatically. When it was done, the house had jumped from level 1 straight to level 3. The difference was unbelievable. The inside was nearly 10 times bigger than before. The temperature was close to 0 degrees, still cold, but nothing like the deadly freeze outside. Stone furniture appeared on its own. A table, chairs, and a real stone bed almost 2 meters wide with an actual blanket. There were separate rooms now, a kitchen, bedroom, guest room, living room, and a storage room. Best of all, the flimsy wooden door was replaced by a thick, heavy stone door. Just looking at it made me feel safe. I moved the 10 water barrels into storage. They barely took up a corner. I ate 2 compressed biscuits with some water for dinner. Not tasty, but I didn't waste a single crumb. Then I crawled into bed with the blanket and fell asleep almost instantly. The fight with the wolves had drained me mentally. I slept until late afternoon. When I woke, there was a rare moment of beauty outside. A pale red sunset glowing through the clouds over the endless white snow. Before all this, I would have taken a photo and posted it online with some dramatic caption. Now it just felt meaningless. That night, snow rats came scratching at the stone door. I didn't bother with them. The upgraded door could handle it, and killing low-level creatures didn't trigger my tenfold enhancement on the loot anyway. Not worth the risk of going out in the dark with bigger monsters lurking. Instead, I ate dinner, then worked out in the middle of the house. Push-ups, squats, pull-ups. With enough food and water secured, I wanted to build up my body while I had this safe window. The next morning, day 3 in this apocalypse, I reached for my phone out of habit before remembering where I was. I laughed at myself, ate breakfast, and started planning. I was getting tired of biscuits and wished I'd saved some wolf meat from earlier. But the Frostfang wolf corpse had been ruined by fire and rats, and I'd had to abandon the Ice Ridge wolves when the pack showed up. At least now my upgraded kitchen had dry firewood, a fire starter, a big iron pot, and some basic seasonings. If I could find fresh meat today, I could actually cook. I'd explored east and north already. Today, I was heading south. I got ready to head south. I tucked the 2 wolf pelts inside my coat, one covering my chest, one on my back. A bit bulky, but the warmth was incredible. Flashlight on my waist, crossbow on the other side with 6 arrows left, and the mountain slasher in my hands. The south was flat, open snow plains, similar to the east. But something was odd. The snow was much thinner here, only ankle deep. My detection said it was negative 32 degrees, way warmer than yesterday's negative 58. Still, the snow shouldn't have melted this fast without any temperature change overnight. Something felt off. Then I kicked something hard in the snow. I brushed it aside and found a small blue glowing stone. Blue crystal. Apparently some kind of currency that merchants value. Merchants? In this frozen wasteland? That was unexpected. I pocketed it anyway. Found 2 more scattered nearby, like someone had dropped them while running for their life. A few hundred meters from the house, I ran into 2 snow rats blocking my path. But these were completely different from the ones near my house. Instead of attacking, they stood on their back legs and waved their little paws at me, like they were begging for food. They weren't afraid of me at all. They had to be a different group from the ones I'd slaughtered before. No point killing them. No threat. No tenfold enhancement on the drops. I tried to walk around them, but one grabbed my pant leg with its teeth while the other ran ahead, pointing its paw toward the deep snow plains and squeaking frantically, like it was warning me about something. I looked where it was pointing and saw a long, irregular ridge in the snow, something big moving underground, heading toward the horizon. Then it turned. Straight at me. Fast. The two rats screamed and bolted. Within seconds, the thing covered 100 meters and exploded out of the snow right in front of me. I was bracing for something terrifying. What I got was a fish, about half a meter long, covered in shiny black scales with a white belly, stubby frog-like fins, and completely white eyes, totally blind. It lunged at my knife with its mouth full of sharp teeth. Its teeth smashed against my mountain slasher with a clang, and several broke right off, falling bloody into the snow. The thing flopped around in pain on the ground. I almost laughed. All that dramatic buildup for a blind, clumsy fish that could barely move on land. One clean swing of my knife to its neck, and it was done. The system called it a snow fish, low danger, drops fish scales, some meat, and a small chance at a level 1 supply orb. I nudged the twitching body with my foot. Not exactly the terrifying monster I was expecting. But hey, it drops loot, so the trip wasn't wasted. The fish dropped better loot than expected. 2 palm-sized scales hard as metal, perfect for making armor, and a fist-sized chunk of meat that smelled like salted fish. Salt is more precious than gold in this frozen wasteland, so that was a huge find. The 2 snow rats from earlier crept back, drooling and staring at the fish carcass. I pushed the fish head toward them, partly to be nice, partly to test if the meat was poisonous. They bowed their little paws at me like they were saying thank you before digging in. That made me curious, so I used my detection ability on them. Snowfield mice. Danger level, friendly. I couldn't believe it. In this brutal, kill or be killed world, there are actually friendly creatures? They're harmless to all survivors. I decided to keep them around. One carried the leftover fish on its back while the other acted as a lookout, ears up, scanning for danger. Not bad little companions. After half an hour of walking south, I climbed over a small snow hill and froze. On the other side was cracked, dark ground with over a dozen ice ridge wolf corpses scattered everywhere. Some were frozen stiff with bite marks, others were burned black, and several had their necks sliced clean through with something sharp. And moving between the bodies were figures. I dropped flat behind the hill and watched for 10 minutes until I got a clear look at one of them. It wasn't human. It had a man's build but was covered in coarse gray hair. Its mouth split open to the ears, showing rows of sharp yellow teeth. Its eyes glowed red even in daylight. Its long claw-like fingers were ripping meat off the wolf corpses with terrifying speed. On its waist hung a leather pouch that glinted with faint blue light, blue crystals. Everything clicked. The neat cuts on the wolves, the burned corpses, the blue crystals I'd found scattered in the snow. These creatures left all of it. They had intelligence. They used weapons. They carried currency. The 2 field mice were trembling flat against the snow, too scared to breathe. I had to run. With my current gear, I'd have 0 chance against these things. I crawled backward through the snow for about 15 minutes before finally standing up and sprinting back to the stone house. On the way, a chilling thought hit me. Those scratching sounds at my door last night. Were they really snow rats? Or were these humanoid monsters checking me out? These creatures are smart. They work together. They carry trade currency. Combined with the frozen corpse and strange clothes I found up north, it's clear that survivors from other worlds exist here too, and not all of them are friendly. So now I've mapped 3 directions. East has snow rats, manageable but annoying. North has the Ice Ridge Wolf Pack, led by that Nightmare Wolf King. South has intelligent humanoid monsters with real combat ability and unknown numbers. That just leaves the West, still unexplored. The biggest gain from today's exploration wasn't the blue crystals or the fish. It was the 2 snowfield mice. They followed me right into the stone house and immediately relaxed, like they knew they were safe. I named the bigger one Xiaoping and the alert one Xiaoan. They're smarter than regular animals. They can tell safe from dangerous. They beg politely for food, and they read the mood of a room. If I keep them happy, they could be perfect little scouts. I cooked the salted fish meat in my iron pot with some purified water. The whole house filled with the most amazing smell. The 2 mice sat by the stove, eyes glued to the pot, barely breathing so they wouldn't miss a thing. After days of dry biscuits, a hot bowl of fish soup felt like heaven. We all ate until we were warm and full. As evening came, I stood by the window watching the surroundings. That's when I noticed something creeping across the snow, a shape so faint it almost blended in completely. It was slowly crawling toward my house. I opened the window just a crack, aimed my crossbow, and fired. The red arrow hit perfectly and exploded. Half a scream, then silence. Snow ghost killed. Dropped. One level 1 orb, a new type of monster. The name alone gave me chills. But I wanted that orb. The problem was, I didn't know if snow ghosts traveled alone or in packs. That's when Xiaoping and Shaoan stood up straight, patting their little chests like volunteers. They wanted to go grab the loot for me. I let them. This was exactly why I'd taken them in. We'd known each other less than a day. In this apocalypse, our relationship is simple. I give them food and shelter, they help me survive. I cracked open the stone door and they shot out, grabbed the glowing orb, and sprinted back. But the instant I opened the door wider to let them in, bang. Something slammed into the door with massive force. I stumbled backward into the wall, chest aching. A second snow ghost had been hiding right next to the door, waiting for this exact moment. Its pale white body and sharp claws were pushing through the half-open doorway. Luckily, the door wasn't open wide enough for it to squeeze through. That gave me just enough time. I raised the crossbow and fired point-blank into its chest. The explosion turned it into charcoal, and it collapsed in the doorway. I shoved the door shut, heart pounding. 2 orbs gained, but only 4 crossbow arrows left now. Without the flame crossbow, even with the mountain slasher, I'd just be easy prey out there. I can't let my guard down for even a second. The 2 mice rushed over looking worried after the snow ghost attack. Xiaoping carefully handed me the orb he'd been carrying. I knelt down and rubbed their heads. You did great. It wasn't their fault. I was the one who sent them out. But the close call reminded me. I need to get stronger. Personal strength is what matters most here. I had 2 orbs to open. I'd already opened 5 before these, making 7 total. The system guarantees a cultivation method after 10 orbs, but with luck, it could come early. The first orb gave me a level 1 arrow quiver. It can produce 10 regular arrows per day. That alone was exciting, but the arrows would be too weak for my flame crossbow. So I chose quality for the enhancement. It transformed into the all-form quiver, which produces 10 arrows daily with supernatural power. My crossbow ammo problem was solved. Then I opened the second orb, barely able to breathe from anticipation. A black scroll floated out, glowing softly. Basic breathing method. Type: cultivation technique. I almost lost my mind with joy. On just the 7th orb, I'd gotten a cultivation method early. This was the key to getting truly powerful. I shouted, "Quality," without a second thought. The scroll exploded with golden light. When the transformation finished, it had jumped all the way to level 5. Mystic Ice Breathing Method. Level 5. Effect: absorb food energy and surrounding cold to strengthen the body. Can break human physical limits. The practitioner will no longer fear the cold. My hands were shaking. I slapped the scroll against my forehead, and it dissolved into my mind as glowing particles. Within 15 minutes, everything changed. My breathing became deep and rhythmic. The freezing air that had been torturing me for days now felt gentle and warm. Cold energy flowed into my body through each breath, healing old injuries, loosening stiff joints, and awakening hidden strength in my muscles. The cold was just gone. Even in my thin cotton coat without the wolf pelts, I felt perfectly comfortable. A layer of invisible warmth surrounded my whole body. I opened my eyes and clenched my fists. My strength had more than doubled from just the beginner stage of this technique. Still, I wasn't getting overconfident. Even with doubled strength, I couldn't beat an Ice Ridge wolf or snow ghost barehanded. The flame crossbow was still what kept me alive. Without it, I would have died on the very first day. My plan was clear: practice the breathing method, eat plenty of food to accelerate my growth, and only hunt monsters once I'm strong enough. The cultivation technique, plus my food stockpile, meant I could power up quickly in the safety of my upgraded stone house. I also wondered how other survivors were managing. If I was struggling with my tenfold enhancement, what were they doing? But with no way to contact anyone, there was no point worrying about it. One thing was certain, though. If my house had still been level 1 when that snow ghost attacked, I'd be dead. That ironwood table wouldn't have stopped it for a second. Every upgrade and every lucky drop had been keeping me alive by the thinnest of margins. The mystic ice breathing method was even more powerful than I expected. I woke up the next morning feeling incredible, refreshed, light, completely free from the cold for the first time since arriving here. But when I tried to get out of bed, I barely pushed off and launched myself like a cannonball straight into the stone wall. Boom. Xiaoping and Shaoan jumped awake, squeaking in panic, thinking a monster had broken in. I rubbed my shoulder, half laughing, half groaning. My strength had skyrocketed overnight, and I had zero control over it. Then the hunger hit, a desperate, roaring emptiness in my stomach. I rushed to the table and started crunching through compressed biscuits. These things used to be rock hard, needing water to choke down. Now my teeth crushed them like crackers. I ate half a pack before the hunger finally eased. The breathing method didn't just boost my strength, it upgraded everything. My nearsighted eyes now had perfect vision. My nose was sharper, my body tougher, my recovery faster. The trade-off was a monster appetite. I went east to test myself against the snow rats. The moment two of them spotted me, they panicked and tried to run. I stomped the snow and shot forward like an arrow, crossing dozens of meters in a single leap. One swing of the mountain slasher split a rat clean in half and cracked the ice layer underneath. That kind of power was unthinkable just yesterday. But I decided not to wipe the rats out. They're useful as an early warning system for bigger threats, and killing them doesn't trigger my tenfold enhancement anyway. Time to explore the last direction, west. I suspected that's where the snow ghosts came from. The western landscape was flat ice plains, same as east and south. The temperature had risen to -21 degrees. With my new body, I moved several times faster than before, covering 1,000 meters easily. Then I heard it, a dry, bone-grinding sound. A snow ghost stood in the snow ahead, completely white and nearly invisible. It had no eyes, just empty black sockets that somehow locked right onto me. It charged with terrifying speed. I drew the flame crossbow in a flash. My reflexes were completely different now, and fired straight into its chest. The explosion sent snow flying everywhere. But this one didn't die. It was still twitching, green light flickering in those hollow eye sockets. The ones I'd killed last night were dark-colored. This one was pure white. Maybe daytime snow ghosts are tougher, or maybe it's a different variety entirely. Either way, I wasn't going to stand around thinking about it. I channeled the mystic ice-breathing method into my mountain slasher. Cold energy flowed down my arm, and the blade glowed with an icy edge. One clean slash across the neck finished it off. It dropped a level 1 orb. I grabbed it and kept moving. Running into a snow ghost so quickly told me the west was seriously dangerous. But I wasn't turning back. With my all-form quiver automatically refilling arrows, I could keep fighting. The early monsters are supposed to be the weakest. I needed to grind them now while I still could. Xiaoping and Shaoan followed behind me, mouths hanging open. I think my new strength had them stunned. Less than 100 meters later, Shaoan let out a piercing scream. I tensed up instantly. Her senses are way sharper than mine, so when she panics, it's real. She pointed her trembling paws at a patch of snow ahead. I looked and my stomach dropped. 7 or 8 white shapes were slowly rising out of the ground. An entire group of snow ghosts. Every empty eye socket turned toward me at once. My back went cold with sweat. This many at once. Even with my new strength, charging in head-on would be suicide. But running would be worse. Turning my back on them meant death. I had 10 arrows. 8 targets. Not all shots would land on moving enemies. I'd have to shoot as many as possible, then fight the rest up close. The thought of close combat with these things terrified me, remembering how one had nearly smashed through my stone door. They charged, but since they woke up at different times, they were spread out. That was my opening. I planted my feet and fired. First arrow, headshot. Instant kill. Second arrow, another one down. They were 50 meters away now. I had time for maybe 2 or 3 more shots. I fired 3 arrows rapid fire. 2 more snow ghosts dropped. One was only grazed in the arm. For still coming, less than 3 meters away. The stench from their mouths made my head spin. Xiaoping and Shaoan had wisely run far away. I didn't blame them. Shaoan's warning had already saved me. I dodged the first attack, spotted the injured one lagging behind, and put an arrow through it. 3 left. They came at me from bad angles, no way to dodge all of them. So I committed. Mountain slasher against 2, crossbow point blank at the third. The crossbow blast sent one flying in a ball of fire, but the other 2 got through. I blocked with the knife and sparks exploded on impact. The force was brutal. It sent me stumbling backward, and their claws ripped 3 deep gashes across my shoulder. Blood soaked my shirt immediately. The pain was blinding, but adrenaline wiped it away. One of the remaining two was hurt and slow. I used my backward momentum to suddenly reverse direction, lunging at an impossible angle, and drove the mountain slasher straight through its throat. One left. I was perfectly calm now. I blocked its swipe with my knife, but the angle was bad and the blade flew out of my hand. Didn't matter. That split second of blocking was all I needed. I fired the crossbow right into its face. Its head exploded. 8 snow ghosts killed. 8 level 1 orbs earned. I collapsed into the snow, completely spent. Xiaoping and Shaoan came pushing all 8 orbs toward me, their little eyes full of worry. I'm fine, I told them, even though I wasn't sure that was true. I gathered the orbs, picked up my knife, and dragged myself back to the stone house. I slammed the stone door shut and finally let myself breathe. My shoulder was torn up badly and bleeding. No medicine meant serious trouble. I had 9 level 1 orbs lined up in front of me, more than everything I'd earned in all my previous days combined. I opened them all at once. The haul was unbelievable. First, 2 batches of 30 pounds of rice each. I chose quantity for both. Tenfold enhancement turned them into 600 pounds of white rice, enough for me and the 2 mice for an entire year. The food crisis was officially over. Everything else got quality enhancement. A dark iron spear that can adjust its own weight and hit with double force, better than the mountain slasher for fighting groups. 2 bottles of super wound medicine with 10 times the healing power, working on both external and internal injuries. I immediately rubbed some on my shoulder. A thin layer of skin formed over the deep wound instantly. 2 days, and it'll be fully healed. 2 more advanced upgrade cards. And then the real prizes. A servant, an elite soldier from a powerful military legion. And a building. A heavy crossbow tower that automatically locks onto monsters within 1,000 meters and regenerates its own ammunition. My guess was right. This world wants survivors to become lords. The stone house can keep upgrading, eventually becoming a fortress or even a city. I used both upgrade cards on the stone house immediately. When it hit level 6, the system asked me to name it. I thought about everything I'd been through, the freezing nights, the wolves, the ghosts, and said quietly, "Peace. I just want to be safe." The transformation was dramatic. The walls expanded and became coated in dark gold crystal ice, practically indestructible. The rooms doubled in size. The floors gained anti-slip ice patterns. Soft light glowed from the walls. No need for torches. The storage room got temperature control to keep food fresh. The windows became crystal glass that could withstand attacks. And most impressively, an invisible shield now covered everything within 100 meters. Any monster that gets close triggers automatic ice spike counterattacks. Level 6. It could withstand attacks from anything below level 5. Considering every monster I'd faced so far was only level 1, that was an enormous safety margin. Then I summoned the crossbow tower and the servant. The tower materialized on the roof, a massive black structure covered in ice patterns, with arms thick as a man's thigh and meter-long arrows gleaming with cold metal light. A crystal on top constantly scanned in all directions. It could kill level 1 monsters and seriously wound level 2 ones. In the courtyard, a figure appeared from a pillar of light. A man in black light armor, carrying a long blade, knelt on one knee. Subordinate Shadow 7, reporting to Master. He was cold-faced, steady, radiating the aura of someone who'd survived countless battles. Level 4, far stronger than me. Xiaoping and Shaoan hid by my feet, staring at him with a mix of curiosity and fear. "Stand up," I said. "Yes, Master." He stood there like a statue, perfectly still. I hesitated, then asked, "Shadow 7, can you tell what level I am?" "Master, you are level 1. Shadow 7 explained the level system to me, and it finally clicked. Every level means breaking through a life limit. Level 1 means you've broken through once or not at all. Level 2 means twice, and so on. But here's the catch. The same level means completely different things for different species. An ant breaking its limit is nothing compared to a human doing it. A snow ghost at level 1 is still way stronger than me at level 1. That's why I needed the flame crossbow to survive. Raw levels don't tell the whole story. Equipment, techniques, and other factors all matter. As evening fell, I suggested we celebrate Shadow 7's arrival with a proper meal. When he saw the rice and salted fish I had, He actually frowned. Master, you can't eat just this. I felt embarrassed. Even my own subordinate thought my food was pathetic. Before I could say anything, he bowed and vanished into the night like a ghost. The crossbow tower on the roof rotated to cover him. Minutes later, a few short wolf howls echoed from the north, then silence. He came back, carrying 2 huge ice ridge wolves in one hand, armor completely spotless. The first bite of roasted wolf meat nearly made me cry. Crispy outside, juicy inside, paired with soft, warm, white rice. After 4 days of nothing but rock-hard biscuits, this was the greatest meal of my life. Xiaoping and Shaoan nibbled on small pieces, squeaking happily. Shadow 7 ate quietly and neatly beside us. The fire crackled, the house smelled amazing, and for the first time, it truly felt like home. The next morning, I came downstairs to find Shadow 7 skinning wolf carcasses while the 2 mice mopped up blood from the floor. On the stone table sat a massive pile of glowing orbs. I couldn't believe my eyes. While I'd been sleeping, Shadow 7 had gone out 3 times during the night and morning, clearing 7 remaining snow ghosts to the west, 5 lone ice ridge wolves to the north, and 3 other snow beasts along the way. 15 orbs total. This wasn't a servant. This was a one-man army with automatic monster hunting, skinning, and cleaning service built in. The gap between level 1 and level 4 was absolutely terrifying. Then Shadow 7's expression turned serious. He warned me about something called a cold surge, a periodic event where temperatures drop to extreme levels and swarms of mindless monsters appear, attacking everything in sight. Unlike normal creatures, these have no intelligence. They just kill. He said I needed to stockpile food and cold-resistant supplies and recruit more people as soon as possible. Our territory had too few defenders. He looked slightly ashamed. I'm sorry, Master. That's all I remember about cold surges. But the real thing is probably far worse than what I've described. Please take it seriously. My face hardened. Got it. I took Shadow 7's warning about the cold surge seriously. Time to open those 15 orbs. 3 of them glowed brighter than the rest. Level 2 orbs that could produce level 2 items. That was a first. I started with the 12 level 1 orbs. 5 were food and water. I chose quantity for all of them. Rice stockpile hit 1,000 pounds, and I now had 30 barrels of water. 2 healing medicine orbs got quality enhancement, becoming super wound medicine, essential for a life of constant fighting. For weapon orbs dropped 2 long swords, a crossbow, and a set of armor. I gave Shadow 7 one of the swords after quality enhancing it into a mountain slasher, a nice upgrade from his old black blade. The armor-piercing crossbow was decent but weaker than my flame crossbow, though its arrows could be reused. The bright light armor could block attacks from anything below level 2, finally covering my biggest weakness. The last level 1 orb gave me a servant card, but just a refugee from some ruined land. I chose quality. The light burst, and a massive man built like a door appeared, kneeling in my living room. Bai, reporting to Master. Level 2, from a regular military legion. Not as strong as Shadow 7, but a solid addition. Then the 3 level 2 orbs. First, A, Spring Eye, building that produces water daily. I chose quality. It became A, Life Spring. Only 10 liters per day, but the water heals wounds and accelerates plant growth. The output was disappointingly small. Next time I get a spring, I'm choosing quantity. Second, a level 2 Spearman Servant card. I consulted Shadow 7 and Bai. Shadow 7 gave sharp advice. With mostly level 1 monsters around, more soldiers meant faster clearing and more orbs. He also suspected my tenfold enhancement might have limits at level 5. Both recommended quantity. I agreed. 10 spearmen materialized, standing in formation, kneeling in unison, reporting to Master. They were only level 1 despite coming from a level 2 orb, which was slightly disappointing. But even so, each one had broken through a human limit once, strong enough to solo a snow ghost. Third orb, a level 2 arrow tower. Quality enhancement pushed it to a heavy crossbow tower, 1,500-meter range, capable of killing level 2 monsters and wounding level 3 ones, regenerating 2 arrows every half hour. I placed it on the opposite side of the house from the first tower. 2 silent guardians covering everything within 1,000 meters. I looked around at what I'd built. The life spring bubbling away. 2 crossbow towers ready to fire. Shadow 7 at level 4, Bai at level 2, 10 Spearmen at level 1. Xiaoping and Shaoan squeaking happily in the corner. I clench my fist. This should be enough to clear the area around the house and create a real safe zone. Move out. Clear all monsters around the territory. Yes, master, only a dozen of us, but every single soldier had broken through at least one human limit. We were ready. We split into 3 teams after a quick strategy meeting. Shadow 7 went south alone to investigate the humanoid monsters. Bai took 5 spearmen north to deal with the Ice Ridge Wolf Pack. I led the remaining 5 spearmen west to clear the snow ghosts, with the new armor-piercing crossbow given to our best marksman. I put on the bright light armor for the first time. The cold, heavy plates wrapped around my body and filled me with confidence. Combined with the mystic ice-breathing method flowing through me, I was a completely different person from 4 days ago. We marched west into the frozen plains. Within minutes, 3 snow ghosts appeared, the same creatures that nearly killed me yesterday. Kill them. The 5 spearmen moved like lightning, fanning out and trapping the ghosts in seconds. Their teamwork was flawless, 3 up front sealing every escape route with precise thrusts, 2 behind blocking every claw swipe. In just a few breaths, all 3 snow ghosts were down. I was honestly shocked. These spearmen were faster than the ghosts, and their coordination was terrifying. If I had to fight one of them one-on-one, even with my flame crossbow, I'd probably lose. Meanwhile, Shadow 7 stood on a snow hill in the south, watching a humanoid monster emerge from below. It was hunched, gray-skinned, with burning red eyes, carrying a massive notched blade. It charged at him screaming. Shadow 7 didn't move until the last possible second. He sidestepped like it was nothing, blocked the heavy strike without budging an inch, and calmly analyzed. Decent speed, good power, but not quite level 2. 2 flashes of his blade later. One arm severed, then the head. It didn't drop orbs. Instead, blue crystals scattered on the ground. Shadow 7's expression darkened. These were cold surge monsters, the kind that swarm during the periodic cold surges and attack everything in sight. Worse, during a cold surge their power increases dramatically. This one could easily reach level 2 when that happens. They needed to be wiped out before that. Up north, Bai was steamrolling the wolf pack. With the dark iron spear that could double its striking force, he fought like a moving iron tower. The 5 spearmen formed an impenetrable wall of spears, dropping wolves before they could even get close. 30 to 50 wolves rushed in and were cut down one by one. Even the Wolf King, that massive beast I'd been terrified of, couldn't handle Bai. The spears swept it off balance, then slammed down with crushing weight, forcing the king to its knees. One thrust through the throat, and it was over. Not a single wolf escaped. Bai collected the loot and looked at the sky. Still before noon. Time to scout further out, he said. There's probably more than one wolf pack around here. As the sun set, I cut down the last snow ghost of the day and called it. My team and I were exhausted but victorious. Xiaoping and Shaoan bounced ahead of us, squeaking like they were telling everyone to hurry home. The numbers were incredible. My Western team killed enough snow ghosts to earn 78 level 1 orbs, thanks to having both the armor-piercing crossbow and my flame crossbow 4. Support. Bai's northern team wiped out the entire wolf pack, including the Wolf King, bringing back 1 level 2 orb, 43 level 1 orbs, plus piles of wolf meat and pelts. Shadow 7 returned last, carrying no orbs, just a full bag of blue crystals. He'd confirmed the humanoid monsters in the south were cold surge creatures, and his report chilled me. Even after killing many stragglers, he estimated over 200 remained. During a cold surge, every one of them would power up past level 2 and attack as a mindless swarm. Our total force, Shadow 7, Bai, 10 spearmen, and me, couldn't survive that head-on. The room went quiet. Even the mice stopped eating. I broke the silence with a grin. With this many orbs, there's no way I don't pull enough reinforcements. I asked Shadow 7, Bai, and my spearman Captain Ning Jia what we needed most. They agreed on 3 things. Expand the territory to house more people, recruit more soldiers, and build self-sustaining food and water systems. Everything depended on growth. I opened all 122 orbs, sorted them, and found 5 upgrade cards. I quality enhanced all 5 into advanced cards and used 4 on the stone house immediately. At level 10, something extraordinary happened. The system announced, Stone House converting to village, Peace Village. The ground shook. Golden light poured into the foundations, and the building exploded outward, growing and reshaping itself. I ran to the window and watched in awe. Stone and wood houses rose from the frozen ground with thick walls and frost-proof crystal roofs, forming neat streets. The yard became a central plaza with glowing blue defensive patterns carved into the ground. New buildings appeared. Houses that hold 8 people each, a basic arrow tower with 500-meter range, a simple barracks that boosts training speed by 10%, and a warehouse that doubles food shelf life. My original stone house had transformed into the Peace Village Lord's Manor. Level 10, the core of the entire village. As long as it stands, the village stands. It can still withstand anything below level 5. Shadow 7, Bai, and Ning Jia knelt together. Master's power rivals the gods. I waved them off, embarrassed but proud. This tiny village wasn't much, but I'd built it from nothing. From a freezing stone room with a thin blanket and rock-hard bread, to an actual settlement with walls, towers, soldiers, and supplies. All right, enough kneeling. We've got planning to do. I looked around Peace Village and frowned. 8 houses in this big, empty space looked pathetic. Time to fix that. From all the orbs, I'd gotten 5 buildings, 2 houses, a warehouse, a toilet, and a tavern. I chose quantity for the houses. 20 new ones popped up, joining the original 8 into a proper neighborhood. The warehouse got quality enhancement, becoming bigger with better preservation. The toilet got quality too, self-cleaning, waste disposal, odor control, and even heating so nobody freezes while using it. Practical stuff matters. The tavern turned into something that looked like a modern bar, which felt hilariously out of place in this frozen village. It produces alcohol automatically every day. I was a little disappointed it didn't have any special recruitment powers like in the novels I used to read. It's basically just for relaxation. Then I spotted 2 special cards I'd almost missed, both farmland cards. I chose quantity for both, and 20 acres of flat farmland appeared at the village edge. Bad move though, most of it sat outside the crossbow tower's range. I should have picked quality. Lesson learned. Next came the 7 servant cards. 6 were refugees, only 1 was a soldier. That told me how lucky I'd been getting Shadow 7 and Bai. Combat servants are actually extremely rare. After discussing with Shadow 7 and Bai, I made my choices. 3 refugee cards got quantity enhancement, producing 30 workers with farming, sewing, and cooking skills. The village needed population. Those 20 acres wouldn't farm themselves. 3 more refugee cards got quality enhancement, converting them into 3 additional spearmen for Ning Jia's squad, bringing it to 13. The last card, a swordsman card, got quality enhancement without hesitation. With 200 cold surge monsters to the south, I desperately needed top-tier fighters. The golden light cleared and revealed a heavily armored warrior carrying a thick iron shield and a sharp battle sword. His presence alone was intimidating. Chen Shi, reporting to Master, his voice shook the air. Level 3. The second strongest fighter in Peace Village after Shadow 7. I was thrilled, though puzzled. Why did different servant cards produce such wildly different results from quality enhancement? Shadow 7 came out at level 4, Bai at level 2, and now Chen Shi at level 3, all from similar-looking cards. I couldn't figure out the pattern. The central plaza was suddenly alive with people, 30 civilians being organized by the soldiers, 3 new spearmen joining formation, and Chen Shi standing like an immovable fortress. I opened the remaining 100-odd ordinary orbs. Food got quantity enhancement, enough to feed all 47 villagers for 3 months. Water was tighter, maybe 2 months, though the Life Spring's daily output would help supplement that. Medicine and weapons all got quality enhancement to maximize effectiveness. The replaced equipment from upgraded soldiers would go to selected male civilians, trained by a spearman or Chen Shi as a village defense force. Peace Village was finally starting to look like something real. The next morning, Ning Jia presented me with a detailed roster of all 30 civilians. 13 farmers, 7 tailors, 3 cooks, 2 hunters, 3 elderly workers for cleaning, 1 blacksmith, and 1 fisherman. Impressive work. I made a big decision. I pulled Ning Jia off the spearman squad and appointed him as Peace Village's first head of security and civil affairs. with 3 spearmen under him. Someone needed to manage the growing population, handle disputes, set rules, and keep order. Ning Jia was fair and disciplined, the perfect choice. He knelt and swore to fulfill the role. We divided into teams at dawn. Shadow 7 went south alone to keep hunting cold surge monsters and get an accurate count. Bai took 5 spearmen north past the wolf territory to find whatever the wolves had been eating. More creatures meant more food and orbs for us. Chen Shi led 5 spearmen west to finish clearing the remaining snow ghosts. I didn't go with any combat team this time. Instead, I took 2 hunter civilians and Ning Jia east to hunt snow rats. The village had grain but almost no meat, and what little wolf meat we had needed to go to the soldiers first. Snow rats were small, but plentiful. Their meat was tender, their fur was soft and useful, and they also dropped food scraps and bone fragments that could be made into simple farming tools. Ning Jia was devastatingly efficient. 2 rats dead before they even left their holes. The 2 hunters, however, were clumsy with their spears, stabbing wildly and hitting almost nothing. I sent them back to set up traps instead. Killing snow rats myself felt almost boring now. After fighting snow ghosts in life-or-death battles, slicing through tiny rats was too easy. I caught myself missing the danger and laughed at how ridiculous that was. But I had to accept my new role. As the village lord, if I die, Peace Village loses everything. My followers wouldn't die immediately, but they'd slowly be corrupted by the winter world and eventually turn into cold surge monsters themselves. That's worse than death. With Shadow 7 and the others handling combat, my job was to lead, not fight on the front lines. Meanwhile up north, Bai's team ran into trouble. He sensed something underground and thrust his spear through 2 meters of snow. A black creature burst out, thin, covered in slimy dark fur, with dead white eyes and razor claws. It wasn't a wolf or a ghost. It looked like a mutated cold surge creature. Bai killed it instantly, but he was troubled. If cold surge monsters were already appearing in the north too, the threat was spreading beyond the south. He told his men to stay on high alert. Up north, Bai's team made an incredible discovery. Beyond the wolf territory, past a 100-meter snow hill, they found a sprawling grassland. Actual grass growing in the middle of this frozen world. It was yellowed and wind-beaten, but alive, with creatures roaming through it. This could be the foundation for Peace Village's future growth. But then, while I was eating lunch, a system announcement hit my brain like a bolt of lightning. The 7-day beginner period was over. New rules. Killing mutant monsters would no longer drop orbs. Only blue crystal currency. Normal creatures like snow rats and wolves would drop nothing at all. And winter merchants were now entering the world, accepting blue crystals for trade. I dropped my food without even noticing. The easy path to getting stronger was gone. No more grinding monsters for orbs and using my tenfold enhancement to snowball. That shortcut was permanently sealed. But the truly terrifying part was the countdown that appeared in my mind. 79 days and 23 hours until the cold surge arrives. This was a one-time warning. Future surges would come without any notice. Less than 3 months. My only hope was that the winter merchants would sell items my talent could still enhance. If not, we'd be in serious trouble. Meanwhile, Shadow 7 was deep in the south, cutting through mutant creatures, red snow ghosts, shadow claw ghosts, rot bone walkers, over 10 different species scattered across the snowfields. He noticed that his collected orbs had suddenly turned into blue crystals, and guessed something had changed on my end. Then he climbed an ice peak and looked down into a massive black canyon. His heart sank. The canyon was swarming with mutant creatures, not 200, but at least 20,000. Red eyes, black claws, rusted blades, all packed together like an ocean of death. Among them were elite individuals far bigger than the rest. 20,000. And they'd get stronger during the cold surge. Shadow 7 turned and sprinted back to the village faster than he'd ever moved. This information couldn't wait. Back at the village, I was trying to stay composed. Ning Jia reported a good haul of snow rats, enough meat to feed the village for several days. I told him to keep going and went back to the Lord's manor alone. That's when Shadow 7 arrived. One look at his face told me something was very wrong. What happened? I nearly stumbled backward when Shadow 7 told me the full picture. Not 200 mutant creatures, tens of thousands. including elites as strong as Shadow 7 himself. This wasn't a storm coming. It was a tsunami, but Shadow 7 stayed calm. He reminded me that 3 months was actually a big advantage. Orbs were gone, but the winter merchants could replace them. And if I existed as a survivor, others must too. Sharing the pressure of the cold surge would improve everyone's odds. I forced myself to breathe. You're right. If I panic now, it's over. Then I asked when these merchants would show up. Before the words even left my mouth, a smooth, polite voice echoed through the hall. The winter merchant is everywhere. The air warped, and a figure appeared from nowhere, wearing a gold-trimmed black coat, a tall top hat, carrying a blue-jeweled cane. His face had no features at all, just a flat silver mirror. But I could feel him watching me. Shadow 7 drew his blade instantly. Ning Jia and Chun Chi rushed in to shield me. The merchant didn't flinch. No need for alarm. I mean no harm. In this winter world, we merchants are your only hope of survival. He waved his hand, and a massive blue holographic screen unfolded, displaying endless scrolling items: food, medicine, buildings, warriors, civilians, pets. Everything. I relaxed. Anyone who could appear inside my heavily guarded manor without triggering a single alarm could kill me without bothering to talk. He wasn't an enemy. I asked if merchants appeared on a schedule. He explained they go where profit is. I could summon him with a special trade token. He'd been drawn here because I'd mentioned winter merchants several times today. Without that, he might not have shown up for days. He gave me a trade token as an apology for underestimating me, because when I opened the pouch Shadow 7 handed me, the pile of blue crystals inside made even this faceless merchant freeze for a moment. The shop had 6 categories: food, medicine, buildings, weapons, servants, and special items. I went straight to servants. The selection was small, just basic cards. The merchant explained that new lords only get access to level 1 merchants with limited stock. The prices: 10 crystals for a civilian, 30 for a spearman or swordsman, 2,000 for a level 3 shield warrior. Looking at our crystal stockpile, the prices seemed manageable. What would you like, honored customer? I clenched my fist and said, everything. The merchant was visibly excited by my spending. The total came to 5,200 blue crystals, way more than he expected from a brand new lord. He promised a special bonus next time if I spent big again, then vanished without a trace. Even Shadow 7 and Ning Jia couldn't detect how he disappeared. First thing I checked, would my tenfold enhancement work on purchased items? I held up a building card, and the talent triggered. Relief washed over me. The game wasn't over. I started with 10 housing cards, all quantity enhanced. 100 stone houses rose across Peace Village in seconds, forming neat rows and streets. The village finally looked like an actual settlement. A toilet card got quality enhancement, self-cleaning, heated, the works. Then 5 arrow tower cards, quantity enhanced into heavy crossbow towers positioned at all 4 corners and the center, creating a 1,000-meter defensive net around the entire village. Next, I headed to the central plaza for the servant cards. Ning Jia brought his guards to keep order. 10 refugee cards, each producing 10 people with my talent, 100 new civilians total. It took 2 hours just to register and assign them all. Ning Jia was drenched in sweat. I made a mental note. We desperately need people who can read and write to help with administration. 10 spearman cards got quantity enhancement, 100 new soldiers. 10 swordsman cards, same treatment, another 100 fighters. All level 1, but every single one had broken through their human limit at least once. Then came the prize, 1 level 3 shield warrior card. The most expensive thing I bought. Quality. The light that erupted was brighter than when Shadow 7 first appeared. When it faded, an enormous warrior stood in dark iron armor with golden patterns, carrying a tower shield covered in protective runes and a massive warblade. Shi Jian, reporting to Master, level 4. Elite quality. With special abilities, shield wall command, group defense boost, and an intimidation aura. Even Shadow 7 tensed up. He could feel that Shi Jian was stronger than him. I was thrilled, but also confirmed something disappointing. My talent caps servant enhancement at around level 5. Still, having 2 level 4 fighters was a massive upgrade. I appointed Shi Jian as commander of all swordsmen. Then Ning Jia flagged a problem I hadn't thought of. The barracks only held 30 people, and we now had well over 30 soldiers. I paused. Not enough space? That's right, master. We've already exceeded capacity. Another thing to fix. The village was growing faster than its infrastructure could handle. I suddenly remembered I still had one advanced upgrade card left. Perfect timing. The barracks only held 30 people, and we'd already outgrown it. I used the card on the simple barracks. It jumped from level 1 to level 3, transforming into A, elite barracks, that boosts training speed by 30%, speeds up wound recovery, and holds 100 soldiers. Problem solved, at least for now. Back at the manor, I had 2 special cards left, a fish pond and a farmland card. The farmland got quantity enhancement, 10 more acres, connecting to the existing fields. With 100 new civilians, we had plenty of hands to work them. Once the crops come in, we'll have taken our first real step toward being self-sufficient. The fish pond was trickier. Quantity would make it too big, stretching outside our defenses, a vulnerability during the cold surge. So I chose quality. It jumped 2 levels to a level 3 pond that produces level 1 and level 2 fish, and eating them accelerates cultivation. I placed it right next to the barracks so soldiers could benefit directly. I still had about 500 blue crystals left, but decided to save them. With the trade token in hand, I'd stockpile more crystals before the next merchant visit. That evening, Bai returned from the north dragging enormous deer-like creatures called frosthorn beasts, far bigger than any deer from my old world. He confirmed the grassland beyond the wolf forest was teeming with wildlife. Incredible news for our food supply. Qinshi came back from the west with 1,800 blue crystals from clearing snow ghosts, though he apologized for not pushing deeper with limited manpower. I just smiled and sent him to check the barracks. The look on his face when he saw the upgraded facility, the rows of new soldiers, and Shi Jian, our new level 4 shield commander, was priceless. I laid out the plan going forward. Priority 1, gather food and blue crystals. Priority 2, keep thinning out the mutant creatures before the cold surge. Priority 3, find other survivors nearby. The next morning, everyone moved out. Shadow 7 headed south alone to keep hunting mutants. Shi Jian took 10 elite swordsmen west to clear remaining snow ghosts and farm crystals. Bai went north to the grassland with 15 spearmen to hunt food. Our reserves were hitting dangerous levels with the growing population, and the farms and fish pond would take months to produce. 8 spearmen stayed behind with Ning Jia to patrol streets, man the towers, and keep order among the civilians. Managing over 100 people with different personalities required constant supervision. As for me, I headed east with Qinshi. Beyond the snow rat territory was uncharted land. With a level 3 fighter by my side, we should be safe enough to explore deep. Qinshi and I headed east into the frozen wasteland. The wind was brutal, but between his tough body and my mystic ice breathing method, we pushed through fine. I couldn't help complaining. The east seemed completely empty compared to Bai's grassland discovery up north. Then I spotted black dots on the horizon. Qinshi had his sword out instantly. We crept closer and found 5 massive white-furred wolves, bigger than the Ice Ridge wolves, tearing apart some dead creature. Qinshi identified them as ice-patterned snow wolves, semi-mutated creatures, stronger than normal beasts and extremely aggressive. They were in the process of turning into full mutants. Looking further, I counted about 20 more on a distant ridge. Qinshi asked to engage. I told him to go ahead. Honestly, with my skill level, I'd just get in the way. My crossbow aim was so bad I might hit Qinshi instead of the wolves. He shot forward like an arrow and cut down the first wolf before it could react. The other 4 attacked together, but Qinshi's sword work was incredible, blocking, dodging, and slashing in a blur of steel. 5 wolves dead in under 15 minutes. Then the 20 on the ridge noticed us. Before I could even warn him, Qinshi charged straight into the entire pack. "Are you serious?" I muttered, jaw-dropping. But he handled it. 20-plus wolves, and he carved through them like they were nothing, predicting every attack, his blade never stopping. Even the alpha fell under his sword. A level 3 fighter taking on 20-plus enemies solo and making it look easy. I'd seriously underestimated what that level gap meant. Then Qinshi called out excitedly, "Master, I found something." Floating above the dead alpha was a purple orb. My detection ability identified it as an automatic vending machine, a random occurrence that can appear anywhere, including after killing monsters. It stays for only 15 minutes and lets you buy items with blue crystals. I opened it, and a holographic machine appeared, looking exactly like a drink vending machine from my old world. Then I panicked. Wait, I don't have any crystals on me, but the machine was smarter than I expected. It automatically connected to my total balance across all of Peace Village. The screen showed 3,172 blue crystals. A second later, it ticked up to 3,178. My teams were still out there earning in real time. The vending machine's balance kept ticking up in real time as Shadow 7 and Shi Jian killed mutants elsewhere. That meant I wouldn't waste this opportunity. The prices were steep though. A level 1 refugee card cost 50 crystals here versus 30 at the Winter Merchant. Classic vending machine markup. But an opportunity is an opportunity. I spent about 3,000 crystals total. 10 refugee cards got quality enhanced into 5 swordsmen and 5 spearmen. My talent randomly split them into balanced groups, which was a nice surprise. I also grabbed 2 arrow tower cards to use later back at the village. The biggest purchase was a level 1 beast soldier card, costing 1,000 crystals. I chose quality enhancement. The golden light that erupted was the most intense I'd ever seen. What appeared was a massive half-human, half-beast warrior in bone armor, carrying a Lionfong club. Pointed ears, dark golden eyes, muscles like iron. Man 2, reporting to Master, level 3, elite quality. Special abilities, armor-breaking strength, berserker rage, and unmatched carrying capacity. Even Chun-Chi looked shaken. This beast warrior was probably stronger than him. With Man 2 and 10 new soldiers, we pushed deeper east. The temperature had dropped back to negative 51 degrees with heavy snow. Then Man 2 snatched something from the air, a tiny white worm, invisible among the snowflakes. When he crushed it, the air went still. Suddenly, thousands of identical worms came swarming from every direction, hidden in the snow and wind. They were nearly impossible to see. Man 2 unleashed a devastating war cry that shattered the ones nearby into ice. But there were too many. They kept coming endlessly, blending perfectly with the blizzard. A scream cut through the wind. One of my spearmen had worms crawling all over his neck, biting through skin, pumping freezing energy into his veins. He collapsed and frost covered his body in seconds. Chun-Chi shielded me while Man 2 smashed the ground with his club, sending shockwaves that killed hundreds of worms. But the swarm was infinite. Chun-Chi said it plainly. Master, if we stay, we all die. We retreated fighting, Man 2's war cries clearing a path. We barely made it out of the infested zone. I lost 2 spearmen and 1 swordsman. The rest were wounded. I had enough super wound medicine to treat them, but the damage was done. I thought I was getting strong. Turns out, one random encounter in unexplored territory cost me 3 soldiers, and I was completely helpless to do anything about it. The winter world keeps reminding me, I'm nowhere near strong enough. We huddled in a snow cave that Man 2 and Chun-Chi had smashed open underground, about 10 meters deep. It was freezing, frost on every wall, but at least we were out of the blizzard and the snow worms. The problem was the cave could collapse at any time under the weight of the snow above us. The snow didn't stop. It got worse as night fell. I kept the flashlight off, too risky to attract anything. Wolf howls echoed in the distance, and Chun-Chi made a good point. Pack creatures always survive better than loners. Just like humans. Then we heard scratching. Something was digging toward us. The entrance burst open and a massive dark purple centipede forced its way in. Over 3 meters long, armored shell glowing with poison, dozens of legs clicking, and its mouth dripping acid that burned holes in the ground. Level 2. Chun-Chi shouted, throwing himself between me and the creature. The cave was too tight to fight properly, and the centipede's venom looked instantly lethal. Man 2 roared and smashed its head with one swing of his club. But then we heard more, dozens of them, crawling through the walls on every side. We break out. Now, I said. Man 2 went first, using his body like a battering ram to punch through 15 meters of packed snow and ice. Chun-Chi shielded me right behind him, his blade cutting down every centipede that squeezed through. The remaining soldiers brought up the rear, fighting desperately. 2 more soldiers died in that tunnel. The gap between level 1 and level 2 was just too wide. I watched them fall and my heart ached. Every loss was irreplaceable. The moment the last soldier made it out, I emptied all 10 crossbow bolts into the tunnel. The explosions collapsed it, temporarily trapping the centipedes underground. Then Chun-Chi stepped in front of me. Master, we have a problem. No snowworms, good. But green eyes were lighting up in the darkness all around us. Wolves. Not any kind I'd seen before. Bigger, meaner, with 4 massive fangs that could crush my skull in one bite. Level 2 creatures, every single one. Centipedes behind us, wolves ahead. Both in the hundreds. I joked weakly. Think the wolves and centipedes can work things out between themselves? Almost on cue, the centipedes burst through the collapsed snow behind us, screeching. The wolves lowered their bodies and growled at the centipedes. The air between the two groups crackled with tension. Chun-Chi and Man-2 closed in on either side of me. My 5 surviving soldiers formed a tight formation. My palms were drenched in sweat. Then something shifted. Neither group was mindless. They recognized each other as the bigger threat. The wolves lunged at the centipedes. The centipedes charged at the wolves. Over 100 on each side, crashing together in a frenzy of fangs, venom, and fury. We didn't wait to see who won. We ran. The snow finally stopped. That was the first good news in hours. Then we heard it. A deep, rumbling moo. In the moonlight, massive shapes appeared. Wild bulls, each standing over 6 meters tall at the shoulder, covered in dark blue-green hide, with razor-sharp bone plates along their spines. Their horns spiraled like corkscrews, glowing dark gold and giving off cold energy. I tried detection. It failed. That only happens when something is 3 or more levels above me, meaning every single one of these bulls was at least level 4. We pressed ourselves flat into the snow, barely breathing. Chun-Chi whispered to stay still. Man-2 gripped his club and didn't move a muscle. The herd was passing by safely until a young calf at the back noticed us. It trotted right over and stared at me with big, clear eyes. My detection failed on it too. Even this baby was at least level 4. Then it spoke. Are you humans? I almost choked. You can talk? The calf, named De Yong, explained casually that any non-mutant creature above level 10 gains intelligence. Even mutants can speak at level 15. He was just curious about us. When he realized he'd interrupted our hunting, he apologized and pushed a card toward me with his hoof before galloping off to catch up with his herd. We all stood up on shaking legs. If a calf was level 10 or above, the adults were beyond anything I could imagine. I looked at the card, Wild Bull's Blood, level 3, elite quality. It massively strengthens physical power. I was done being weak. I triggered my tenfold enhancement, quality, and the card transformed. Wild Bull's Heart, level 4. Lord Quality, a tier above elite that I'd never seen before. My enhancement confirmed it caps at level 5, just as Shadow 7 guessed. I swallowed it immediately. The pain was indescribable. It felt like a raging bull was stampeding through my insides, tearing apart my muscles, bones, and veins. I bit my tongue to stop from screaming. We were still out in the open wilderness. Sweat soaked through my clothes as ice energy and blood energy collided inside me. Chun-Chi, Man-2, and the surviving soldiers formed a protective circle around me, weapons drawn, watching the darkness. Gradually, the agony faded. What replaced it was a feeling of incredible, mountain-like power. My skin was harder, my bones heavier, my veins wider, my muscles denser. I clenched my fist and felt like I could shatter ice with a casual punch. 2 system messages echoed in my mind. Second limit broken. Third limit broken. I jumped from level 1 to level 3 in one moment. Everyone around me could feel the change, a wave of overwhelming life force radiating from my body. Let's go home, I said. The soldiers straightened up despite their exhaustion. Watching their lord break through 2 limits in a row had lit a fire in them. Man-2 took the front. Chun-Chi stayed at my side. 5 soldiers guarded the rear. We marched through the dawn light toward Peace Village. When the village outline finally appeared on the horizon, I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding all night. Brothers, we made it. The 5 of us walked in carrying the fierce aura of survivors who'd stared death in the face. Even the snow rats near the village scattered in terror. And honestly, after the night I'd just had, seeing those annoying little rats felt almost comforting. The first people to spot us were the 2 hunters from our original batch of civilians. Ning Jia had put idle villagers to work hunting snow rats outside the village. Hand in half the catch, keep the rest. It sounds harsh, but in this frozen wasteland, having a village to sleep in and weapons to carry was already a miracle. Without that, these unarmed civilians wouldn't last a day. When they recognized me, they dropped to their knees in the snow. "Welcome back, Lord." The commotion spread fast. Soldiers and villagers came rushing over. I just nodded quietly and said, "I'm back." Ning Jia came sprinting and knelt down, saying he'd failed me. I told him to get up. I wasn't in the mood for apologies. Inside the manor, I got the full report. While I'd been gone overnight, Shadow 7, Shi Jian, and Bai had all returned from their missions safely. But when I didn't come back by nightfall, they immediately went out searching for me. They ran straight into a swarm of mutant creatures. Soldiers were lost. Shadow 7 and Shi Jian had to break through alone to keep searching, while Bai retreated with the survivors to defend the village. Hearing that my two strongest fighters had gone out alone into that chaos made my blood run cold. Thankfully, they had a deal to check back by noon. About an hour later, both of them staggered back into the village, armor caked in dried blood, covered in wounds, completely spent. They collapsed the moment they passed the gate. They'd been fighting through mutant hordes all night. I understood why we'd missed each other. The blizzard had erased all tracks, and they'd broken out in different directions from where I'd gone. I told them, "You're back. That's what matters. Don't be this reckless again. Rest up. Starting tomorrow, we're focusing everything on the east." That evening, I sat alone in the manor and faced the numbers. 21 level 1 soldiers lost, exactly half our regular fighting force. Gone in one expedition. My crystal balance showed 5,400, enough to rebuild a decent force through the merchant. But I remembered his promise of a special surprise for big spenders and decided to wait one more day before using the trade token. I counted what I still had: Bai at level 2, myself, Qin Shi, and Man 2 at level 3, Shadow 7 and Shi Jian at level 4. The core was intact. As long as we didn't run into a massive high-level swarm, we could hold the village. News of my return calmed the whole village. Even the laziest civilians worked harder. Out here, the Lord is everything. I'm their only chance at staying alive, and they know it. The next morning, I drank a bowl of hot spiritfish soup, put on my armor, grabbed my blade, and headed to the eastern front. Every soldier peace village had was assembled. 15 spearmen, 7 swordsmen, with Shi Jian, Shadow 7, and the others standing at the front. Not many people, but the fight in their eyes was real. "Where exactly did you run into the mutants?" That was my first question. Shadow 7 and Shi Jian pointed to spots barely 100 meters to the left and right of my original path east. I'd walked right between two nests without knowing it. We went to Shadow 7's location first. The ground was darker there, still smelling of blood and rot. I crouched to check the snow and felt something moving underneath. A mutant creature burst out of the ground. Chen Qi moved to intercept, but I stopped him. I wanted to test my new strength. I stepped forward and punched the thing in the head with my bare fist, channeling mystic ice energy through my knuckles. Its skull exploded like a block of ice. That punch was like kicking open an anthill. Hundreds of mutants started clawing their way out of the snow, an entire underground nest. Kill them all. Shadow 7 became a blur, decapitating monsters before they could even react. Shi Jian charged forward like a human tank, shield first, smashing a bloody path through the swarm. Qin Shi's blade flew like lightning. Man 2's club pulverized everything it touched. The 22 regular soldiers held formation behind them, finishing off anything that hit the ground. I fought alongside them for the first time as a level 3 warrior. My mountain slasher channeled freezing energy into every cut. One monkey-like mutant swung at me. I dodged, froze its arms solid with my blade, then sliced its head clean off. These level 1 creatures were nothing to me now. After clearing about 370 mutants, we stopped. No deaths on our side. 5 seriously wounded, 15 with minor injuries. But the Crystal Hall was disappointing. Only 1,500. Low-level mutants just don't pay well compared to Shadow 7's high-level hunting in the south. We rested a full day, then hit the second nest at Shi Jian's encounter point. These were different. Crocodile-human hybrids with thick armor-like skin and jaws that could snap a person in half. 2 soldiers made one mistake and were bitten clean through. Dead instantly. Watching their broken bodies, I burned with rage. But Shurjian said something I couldn't argue with. Lord, without going through real life and death combat, they'll never break past level 1. Even if we protect them now, they'll die in the cold surge anyway. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, all emotion was gone. Kill. We wiped out 300 crocodile mutants. 2 soldiers lost, 1,300 crystals gained. Worse numbers than yesterday with actual casualties. A net loss. That evening, I sat alone in the manor staring at the 8,000+ crystals glowing in the vault. I'd been holding off on using the trade token, waiting for the merchant's promised special surprise for big spenders. But today's deaths snapped me awake. 2 soldiers died because I was being greedy, trying to save crystals for a better deal. A survivor's only goal is to stay alive. I'd let greed cloud my judgment. The surprise could wait. My people couldn't. I activated the trade token, but the merchant didn't appear right away. The token is just a signal, not a teleporter. I secretly hoped he'd take a couple extra days so Shadow 7 could hunt more high-level mutants down south and stack up more crystals. I knew our strategy was risky. We were all in on fighting, earning crystals, and recruiting soldiers. If we lost a big battle or the merchant didn't show up in time, the whole village could collapse. But we had no choice. Bai's grassland discovery up north could help with food at least. 3 days passed quietly. No mutant attacks, but trouble came from inside the village instead. 3 male civilians had been slacking off, hoarding food, and worst of all, one tried to assault a woman last night. Ninja dragged them to the central plaza. According to Peace Village law, execution, they begged and crawled toward me, crying for mercy. I didn't hesitate. Execute them. 3 heads rolled. The entire village went silent. Over 100 civilians stared, terrified. Even the woman who'd been attacked looked shocked. She couldn't believe a lord would kill 3 able-bodied workers over her. I stood and addressed everyone. In Peace Village, follow the rules and you live. Break them and you die. You can work less, eat less, but if anyone crosses the line, this is what happens. I told Ninja to write up a formal code of laws and explain every rule to the villagers. He knelt and accepted, though I could tell he was scrambling. There were no written laws yet. He'd have to create them from scratch. I hurried back to the manor, and the winter merchant was already waiting. He asked if I was facing a major crisis, since I called him so soon. I said no, just a development bottleneck. He nodded knowingly, saying every new lord struggles with watching their people die. I bought everything. 50 refugee cards, 5 spearman cards, 5 swordsman cards, 800 crystals gone. Then 3 archer cards, 3 heavy infantry cards, 3 cavalry cards, and 1 level 2 axeman card. 2 upgrade cards at 100 each. Everything he had, I took. 7,000 crystals spent in 15 minutes. The merchant mentioned his special surprise had required spending 10,000. I'd fallen short by 3,000. A flash of regret hit me, but I let it go instantly. My people needed these soldiers now, not later. The merchant's featureless face somehow conveyed admiration. You didn't reach the threshold, but I can offer a partial surprise. I believe in you, Lord of Peace Village. First, I used the 2 upgrade cards, both quality enhanced into advanced cards, on the barracks. It jumped from level 3 to level 6. Training speed up 60%, faster wound recovery, and a 1% reduction in the difficulty of breaking through limits. Most importantly, capacity for 1,000 soldiers. The barracks was now so massive it doubled the size of the entire village. Then I stood on the training field platform and laid out every soldier card I had. 5 spearmen, 5 swordsmen, 3 archer, 3 heavy infantry, 3 cavalry, all quantity enhanced. The cards shattered into a pillar of gold and blue light. When it faded, a full army stood in perfect formation on the field. 30 heavy infantry up front, encased head to toe in dark iron plate armor, carrying massive tower shields stamped with Peace Village's emblem. They were an immovable wall. 50 spearmen behind them, light leather armor, iron-tipped spears with red tassels fluttering in the wind. The charging core of any battle formation. 50 swordsmen on the flanks, quick, flexible fighters with thick black blades, ready to cover gaps or rush in for close combat. 30 archers in the center, carrying horned bows and frost-tipped arrows, positioned behind the shields and spears, our ranged firepower. And on the outer edges, 30 snow wolf cavalry, riders in light armor mounted on tamed white wolves with glowing green eyes and razor claws. Fast, mobile scouts and flankers who could move across snow like it was flat ground. I looked down at this army and felt the tension of the past week finally melt away. Spears to break lines, swords for close quarters, bows for range, shields for defense, cavalry for speed. A real fighting force. The 50 refugee cards got quality enhanced into 50 more mixed soldiers who joined their respective units. The single level 2 axeman card I chose quantity for. 10 level 2 axemen were more reliable than gambling on one higher level warrior. Total, 250 new soldiers added to Peace Village. I also placed 20 more acres of farmland, connecting to the existing 30 for 50 acres total. Food and water cards got quantity enhanced into 3 months of supplies for the entire village. 5 more arrow towers were upgraded to heavy crossbow towers, strengthening our defensive perimeter. Spare weapon cards all got quality enhanced into superior arms, rewards for soldiers who distinguished themselves in battle. That night, Ning Jia organized a celebration. Bonfires blazed across the village. Civilians sat around the flames for the first time, holding warm food, wearing proper clothes, actually smiling. Children ran and played. Adults raised drinks and cheered. The firelight lit up the new barracks, the tall arrow towers, and the full granary. It was the most peaceful, most alive night Peace Village had ever seen. Everyone knew this didn't come free, but they also knew their lord had given them something they'd never had in this frozen apocalypse, a real chance to live. Cold surge? Mutant hordes? I whispered, watching the celebration from the manor window. Let's see who's faster, you coming or me killing. The war horn split the night sky over Peace Village. Within seconds, every soldier was out of bed, armored up, and standing in formation on the training field. No chaos, no delays, just the sharp sounds of armor clicking and weapons being drawn. I stood on the command platform in my bright light armor, flanked by Shi Jian on my left and Shadow 7 on my right. 2 level 4 warriors, one a fortress of steel and shield, the other a hidden blade wrapped in darkness. Below us, the entire army stood in silence, waiting. I didn't give a speech. No rousing words. Just one. Kill. Shadow 7 departed first, leading 30 Snow Wolf cavalry south on a magnificent snow lion mount. A beast I'd bought from the winter merchant that my talent had enhanced into an elite-grade predator. Faster than any wolf, tireless in deep snow. Shadow 7's mission was to scout the southern mutant territory ahead of the main force. I had my own snow lion beneath me. When it sensed my determination, it threw back its head and roared across the frozen plains, shaking snow from distant branches. Move out. Over 200 soldiers marched behind me in perfect formation. Heavy infantry led the way with their massive shields. Spearmen and swordsmen flanked the sides. Archers held the center. Remaining cavalry guarded the rear. Every soldier from the upgraded barracks was sharp, focused, and armed to the teeth. We'd barely traveled a few miles when the ground ahead started churning. Something was moving underneath. Halt. Shi Jian stepped forward, shield raised. Archers, forward. Ready. 30 archers dropped to one knee, frost-tipped arrows drawn to full tension. Everyone else locked into battle positions, shield wall sealed, spears angled forward, swords half-drawn. Zombie-like mutants exploded out of the snow by the dozens. Blue-black skin, rotting flesh, exposed fangs dripping dark blood, rushing at us with terrifying speed despite their stiff bodies. Fire. 30 arrows flew as one. The front row of mutants dropped instantly, skulls pierced clean through. More poured in behind them, but the shield wall held firm. Wave after wave of arrows rained down, turning the white snow into a swamp of black blood. When the archers ran low, Shi Jian called the shift. Heavy infantry advance. Spears follow shields. Swords, finish them. The shield wall pushed forward like a slow-moving glacier. Spearmen stabbed through the gaps at heads and joints. Swordsmen darted out to cut down anything still twitching. The whole army moved like a single machine. Arrows flying, spears thrusting, blades flashing. Not a single soldier lost. Every mutant destroyed. Protected at the center by 10 level 2 axemen, I watched in awe. So this is what a real organized army can do. Against mindless level 1 mutants with no strategy and no coordination, we weren't just winning. We were steamrolling them. The difference between my desperate solo fights a week ago and this disciplined military force was like night and day. Cleanup took 15 minutes. The mutant corpses were useless except for the blue crystals they dropped. We collected arrows, gathered crystals, and moved on. I noticed something important watching the battle. Even among level 1 soldiers, there's a huge gap. Archers and heavy infantry are far more effective than basic spearmen and swordsmen. Breaking through human limits gives different boosts depending on your body and role. What I thought was a single nest turned out to be just the beginning. Over the next half day, we hit 3 more nests, each holding hundreds of mutants. All level 1, all crushed easily by our formation. 0 casualties. But the sheer number of hidden nests worried me deeply. When the cold surge hits and every nest wakes up at once, things will be very different. We couldn't even reach the main mutant gathering that Shadow 7 had discovered in the south. The soldiers were exhausted just from clearing nests along the way. I made a decision. Spend the next 3 days clearing every nest within 10 miles of Peace Village in all 4 directions. I also officially named this force the Peace Army and appointed Shi Jian as its commander. 4 days of continuous warfare followed. Day 1, south, 4 nests destroyed, nearly 1,000 mutants killed, 0 casualties, 2,800 crystals earned. A perfect start that lit a fire in every soldier. Day 2, east, only 1 nest, but the creatures were far more vicious. We lost 3 swordsmen and 2 spearmen, but destroyed the nest, 500 kills, 2,000 crystals. Day 3, west, 2 nests plus leftover snow ghosts. Nearly 1,000 mutants and 300 ghosts killed. Only 1 heavy infantry lost. 3,500 crystals. Our best efficiency, yet as the troops got sharper with each battle. Day 4, north, a nightmare. 6 connected nests. 3,000 mutants swarming all at once. Even with tight formations and our strongest fighters going all out, the losses were brutal. 11 heavy infantry, 30 spearmen, 22 swordsmen, and 2 archers dead. But we flattened all 6 nests and earned a staggering 10,000 crystals. 4 days total, nearly 19,000 blue crystals. An incredible haul, but a one-time windfall. The area around Peace Village was now mostly cleared. The hidden costs were steep too. The dead soldiers alone were worth about 3,000 crystals to replace, plus weapons and food consumed. Without my tenfold enhancement making recruitment cheaper, these operations would barely break even. I also ran into 2 vending machines during the campaign. Their prices were double the winter merchants, highway robbery, but I bought some food, special cards, and a few soldiers and civilians anyway. The real headache was the merchant's unpredictable schedule. I had crystals to spend, but no guarantee he'd show up when I needed him. I was sitting on a pile of crystals waiting for the winter merchant when unexpected visitors showed up instead. "Master, other survivors are here," Ninja reported. He'd broken through to level 2 during the northern battle. The life-or-death combat had pushed him past his limit. But his next words caught me off guard. "They're not human." 3 figures walked into Peace Village. The leader was nearly 3 meters tall, a lion-headed warrior with bronze skin, a massive mane, and a blood-stained greatsword on his back. He radiated the presence of a mountain. Flanking him were a bulky bear man with gray-black fur and crushing claws, and a lean wolf-headed fighter with silver fur, green eyes, and a long spear. All 3 were covered in wounds and dried blood, but their fighting spirit was unmistakable. The lion man spoke first. "I am Enlu, a first-tier lord, a survivor like yourself." I introduced myself calmly, then asked directly why he'd come. He didn't waste time either. "The cold surge is coming. No single territory can survive it alone. I'm here to propose an alliance." He knew too much about the cold surge for a newcomer. I tested him by claiming I'd only recently arrived and knew little about it. His reaction was priceless. The composure cracked right off his lion face. "Impossible. My scouts saw your army. Hundreds of disciplined soldiers, arrow towers, fortified walls. No new lord could build this. Maybe I'm just lucky," I said with a slight smile. We moved inside the manor. Over drinks from the tavern, and Lu shared everything. This was his 3rd cold surge. The temperature would plummet so severely that unprotected civilians freeze in seconds. Every underground nest would erupt simultaneously, not just level 1 mutants, but 2s, 3s, even 4s. They attack everything indiscriminately until nothing remains. His last alliance had 3 lords. 2 territories were completely destroyed, tens of thousands dead. He barely survived with 30% of his forces. This surge would be worse. His scouts had spotted level 4 mutants in the deep wasteland. His own, Lionfong territory, had only about 200 soldiers. Not nearly enough. Level 4 mutants in packs. That's Shadow 7 and Shijian level. If those came in swarms, even my upgraded village with its 6-level barracks couldn't hold. And Lu's proposal was straightforward: share intelligence and help each other when possible. No need to merge forces or give up independence. It made sense. Simple, low risk, high value. Peace Village accepts the alliance, I said. Together against the cold surge, and Lu leaped to his feet, eyes blazing with relief. I swear by the beast god, no betrayal during this alliance. If I break this oath, may mutants tear me apart. He extended his massive paw. I reached out my hand. We shook on it. My first alliance in the winter world was sealed. And Lu drained his wine and couldn't stop praising it. I could tell he was starving for luxuries. His territory clearly didn't have much. I ordered some of our tavern's stockpiled wine packed up for him as a gift. It cost me nothing since the tavern produces it automatically, but it bought goodwill. Before leaving, he gave me advice. Clear out nearby mutant nests before the surge, and don't rely too heavily on the winter merchant's unpredictable schedule. Then he took his 2 beast generals and disappeared into the snow. The moment he was gone, I called Shadow 7, Shijian, and Ningjia into the manor. The atmosphere turned serious instantly. Can we trust him? I asked bluntly. Shadow 7 spoke first, cutting straight to the heart of it. 2 issues. First, was the cold surge really as terrible as Lu claimed? If he was exaggerating or lying, this whole alliance could be a trap, and what he actually wanted might be Peace Village itself. Second, and more concerning, how did he find us? Our 4-day military campaign made noise, sure, but we had patrols and watchtowers everywhere. If his scouts had been spying on us, we should have detected something. Yet he knew our exact location, troop numbers, and defenses, while we knew absolutely nothing about his Lionfong territory. The information gap was dangerous. Shijian agreed forcefully. He seemed straightforward, but that's exactly when we need to be most careful. We don't even know where his base is. If he's planning to swallow us during the cold surge chaos, we'd be blindsided. Ningjia, now at level 2, after the northern battle, added the sharpest observation. He says he survived 3 cold surges, yet his territory only has 200 soldiers, roughly equal to ours. But he had enough manpower to scout the entire area and pinpoint our village? Something doesn't add up. This visit was probably reconnaissance, not diplomacy. That hit exactly what I'd been worrying about. If I'd been confident enough in our strength, I would have detained him on the spot. But I couldn't gauge his true power, so I'd played along. And my instincts were right. 10 miles away, and Lu and his 2 generals were already scheming. The Wolf General reported that our crossbow towers created overlapping kill zones. A direct assault would be costly. The Bear General suggested using expendable low-rank soldiers as cannon fodder to exhaust our towers, then charging with elite troops. The Wolf General shot that down. They couldn't afford to waste soldiers they couldn't replace. Their crystal income had dried up, nearby nests were already cleared, and deeper expeditions cost more than they earned. The truth was, Lu's Lionfong territory was falling apart. He'd gone all in on military expansion early on, even conquering other survivors' territories. But he'd neglected civilians and farming entirely. His massive army ate through supplies faster than anything could replenish them. During the last minor cold surge, he deliberately sent waves of low-rank soldiers to die, using the crystals from that slaughter to buy civilians and try building a sustainable economy. It was too late. His civilians couldn't produce food fast enough to feed his remaining troops. Lionfong territory was on the verge of economic collapse. Peace Village, with its granary, tavern, upgraded barracks, and farmland, was his lifeline. Taking us over was his only path to survival. And Lu stared toward our village and said coldly, "We will attack Peace Village. But the wolf is right, we can't rush it. It's not yet time for a desperate gamble." Shadow 7 returned from his tracking mission covered in frost, and the news was exactly what I'd feared. "It's all as Ning Jia suspected," he reported, voice tight. And Lu's alliance talk was a lie. He wants to take Peace Village. Shadow 7 had found carefully hidden tracks around our village. Beast footprints at the farmland edges to assess our food supply, prints near the barracks walls, to count our soldiers, and observation points on southern hills with perfect views of all our crossbow tower positions and defensive gaps. Even more telling, no traces of food or supplies along their trail. And Lu's Lionfong territory was running on empty. They were desperate, and we were their target. That's thoroughly bad news, I said, my hands clenching with cold fury. I made my decision immediately. We couldn't wait for Enlu to strike first. But we also couldn't rush in blind. Shadow 7 confirmed that Enlu and his 2 generals were all above level 5. In open combat, we'd be crushed. The only reason they hadn't attacked during their friendly visit was our crossbow tower network. I sent Shadow 7 back out to track Enlu's trail and locate Lionfong territory. Take your time and stay safe. Don't get close enough to be detected. He vanished into the blizzard without even stopping for water. Then I headed straight to the barracks. I needed to act fast during this window. Enlu would need days to organize an attack force. Every hour counted. My plan was clear. Take 100 elite soldiers north to the grassland and hunt as many creatures as possible. Not for crystals. Normal creatures don't drop those anymore. But for 2 things, meat to stockpile food reserves, and the chance of triggering a vending machine. That random drop was currently my only way to buy soldier cards and strengthen our forces without the winter merchant. I briefly considered sharing the grassland's location with Enlu. Maybe enough food would convince him to leave us alone. I killed that thought instantly. He'd built his entire empire through conquest and plunder. Feeding a predator doesn't make it stop hunting. It just makes it stronger. I split our forces. Shi Jian would take the 30 Snow Wolf cavalry west to hunt snow ghosts and mutants for blue crystals, and if a vending machine appeared, rush it to me immediately. At least 100 soldiers would remain in the village to guard the walls and towers. No matter what happened, the village had to hold until reinforcements arrived. Shi Jian tried to stop me from going personally. Master, if something happens to you, Peace Village is finished. I've made my decision, I said. Move out. My snow lion roared across the frozen plains. 100 of my best soldiers marched behind me toward the northern grassland. Time was running out, and I refused to sit still while an enemy sharpened his claws. We marched north for about an hour until we crossed beyond our cleared safe zone and entered the vast northern plains. When we crested the snow hill, everyone gasped. Behind it was a green valley, a warm basin where snow couldn't reach, shielded by some invisible barrier. Warm air rose from the ground, grass grew thick and lush, and the place was teeming with life. White antelope with crystal horns bounced through the meadows. Round, fluffy creatures rolled across the grass, making soft sounds. Birds with ice crystal wings circled overhead, catching sunlight. No mutants, no blood, just peaceful nature. I wanted to slap myself for not paying attention to this place sooner when Bai first reported it. Begin hunting. Form small groups. Safety first. That's when reality hit. My soldiers were trained for formation combat against mindless charging mutants. Hunting agile, alert animals? Completely different story. Arrows flew everywhere and hit nothing. These creatures had incredible reflexes and awareness. They'd survived the winter world for a reason. I tried my flame crossbow. Missed. The arrow exploded in the grass while the antelope tilted its head and stared at me curiously, like I was the interesting one. Embarrassing. I holstered the crossbow and drew my mountain slasher. Fine, I'll do this myself. I launched forward so hard the ground cratered under my feet. The antelope barely had time to bleat before my blade took its head clean off. With my body having broken through 3 limits, I could outrun these animals in short bursts and cut them down. But only a handful of us could actually hunt effectively. Me, Qin Shi, Bai, and the 10 level 2 axemen. We had the speed and power to chase down prey. The 100 level 1 soldiers? Hopeless. They chased and swung and missed, exhausting themselves for almost nothing. Their total haul barely exceeded what I caught alone. After about 10 kills, even I was getting tired. My arms ached, my breathing was heavy. Bai and the axemen were already slowing down. Only Qin Shi, with his superior technique and endurance, kept going at a decent pace. Worse, our noise was scaring the animals deeper into the valley. Distant growls from larger beasts told me we were attracting unwanted attention. I called a halt and rethought the approach. Keeping 100 clumsy soldiers here was counterproductive. Bai, have the cooks prepare lunch from today's kills. After eating, take 50 soldiers and escort all the meat back to Peace Village. We need the food stored, and fewer people here means less noise for the next round of hunting. Sending half the force home would thin our numbers, but make us more effective. The remaining squad would be leaner and quieter for the afternoon hunt. Yes, master. The soldiers got to work, butchering game, starting fires, finally resting their tired legs. A warm meal in a green valley surrounded by actual nature. For a brief moment, it almost felt normal. We set up camp at the edge of the green basin. Cooking fires crackled, smoke rose high into the sky, and the smell of roasting beast meat filled the air. In a place with no mutants, we could actually relax for once. The soup was incredible. Hot, rich, warming me from the inside out. For a few minutes, I forgot about Enlu, forgot about the cold surge, and just enjoyed a warm meal in a green valley. My soldiers deserve this too. After eating, Bai took 50 soldiers and all the morning's kills back to Peace Village. I kept the rest and gave everyone a short break before the afternoon hunt. I asked Qinshi for advice on improving our terrible hunting efficiency. He admitted he was a soldier, not a hunter, and regular trapping methods wouldn't work on these supernaturally tough animals. But he had an idea. Stop chasing small, fast prey and go after the big ones instead. The big ones? I looked at the mountain-sized beast he was pointing at and felt my stomach tighten. How about that one over there? It's smaller, eats grass, seems slower. Qinshi shook his head calmly. That one has explosive short-range speed, and its horn could split a man in half. The big one here has no scales, no claws, no special tricks, just raw size and strength. It's actually the safest target. I swallowed hard. Fine. Your plan. His strategy was brilliantly simple. Don't fight it up close. Use our 10 armor-piercing crossbows to harass it from a distance. Keep moving and slowly bleed it out. Never let it rest. Never let it catch anyone. 10 soldiers fired the first volley into the giant beast's front legs. It had been peacefully grazing, ignoring us like insects. Then the pain hit. Its roar shook the entire basin. The ground trembled when it turned. Its massive paws slammed the earth, leaving craters and sending dirt flying. But it was too slow to catch our shooters, who fired and sprinted away in rotation. Qinshi organized 2 teams of 10, alternating shots so every shooter was always fresh and fast. The beast raged and charged and smashed the meadow to pieces, but couldn't touch a single soldier. Blood streamed down its dark fur, staining the grass red. Its roars grew more desperate with each round of bolts. The only downside, our armor-piercing bolts buried themselves too deep to recover. 10 bolts per volley, all lost inside the beast. We need to finish this before we ran out. The giant beast finally collapsed under Qinshi's relentless strategy. 100 crossbow bolts had been fired into its right front leg over the course of the battle, shredding the tendons and muscles until the leg was completely useless. For a creature that massive, losing one leg meant it couldn't stand anymore. It crashed to the ground, shaking the earth. But it wasn't dead, just trapped. Its red eyes still burned with rage. Its huge paws still swiped at anything nearby. Getting close would still be suicide. What now? I asked Qinshi. Simple, he said calmly. He gathered all the spare spears from the soldiers, over a dozen, and explained the plan. He and I would throw them at the beast's weak points. Eyes, nose, throat. If that didn't finish it, he'd lead the 10 level 2 axemen in for the kill. We started hurling spears. The beast tried shielding its head with its remaining good paw, but its head was too big to cover completely. Qinshi landed a perfect throw right into its left eye. The scream that followed was deafening. We circled to its blind side and threw every last spear. Both eyes destroyed. The beast was completely blind now, but instead of weakening, it went berserk, thrashing wildly, slamming the ground, sending dirt and rocks flying everywhere. It was terrifying even without being able to see. Wait, Qinshi told me. Let it burn through its last burst of energy. Within half an hour, the thrashing slowed. The roars became whimpers. Its massive chest heaved with exhaustion. It was done. Now? Follow me. Qinshi leaped forward like a hunting cat, his 10 axemen right behind him. The blind beast sensed them and swung its paw wildly, but every strike missed by a wide margin. They circled behind its neck where the skin was thinnest. You could see the blood vessels and windpipe underneath. Strike. Qin-Chi's blade bit into the neck first. Then 10 axes fell together. Blood erupted. The beast let out one final earth-shaking roar, thrashed weakly. Then its enormous head dropped and went still. The mountain of flesh collapsed with a tremor. Silence. Just heavy breathing from every soldier. Qin-Chi wiped blood from his face. Master, it's done. Brilliant work. Then I looked up at the beast's head, and my heart jumped. Floating above it was a glowing blue orb. A vending machine. Exactly what I'd been hunting for. I activated the vending machine without hesitation. The familiar blue trading screen appeared, and I had 15 minutes. I swept up every servant card first, then spent the remaining crystals on defensive buildings. When my balance hit 0, there were still items left unsold. Frustrating, but nothing I could do. At least now I understood the pattern better. This giant beast was technically only level 2, but its sheer size made it far more dangerous than other level 2 creatures. If it had traded some of that strength for speed or defense, Qin-Chi's bleeding strategy would never have worked. Hunting similar oversized beasts could be a reliable way to trigger vending machines in the future. We couldn't carry the whole carcass. It was massive, so we cut off the best meat and headed back over the snow hill. Once outside the basin, I activated all the cards. 50 refugee cards got quality enhanced into 50 mixed soldiers. Then came 10 spearman cards, also quality enhanced. The result, 100 battle spearmen. Level 2, elite quality. Only level 2? I frowned. My talent used to push level 1 cards all the way to level 3 or 4. Shadow 7 and Qin-Chi had both come from basic 1-star cards. The 10 swordsman cards gave the same result, level 2 elite. Something had changed. A wild thought crossed my mind. Was the winter world itself limiting my talent somehow? I shook it off. No time for speculation. 20 level 2 elites were helpful, but nowhere near enough to counter and lose threat. 10 cards remained. 5 archer cards got quantity enhancement. 50 new bowmen with powerful horn bows. Archers win through volume, not individual strength. 50 of them firing together would create a wall of death. The last 5 cavalry cards needed more thought. Peace Village had no cavalry commander. Shadow 7 specializes in stealth, Shi Jian in infantry, Qin-Chi in general combat. Nobody could lead mounted troops properly. I decided. 4 cards for quantity. 40 riders on sturdy snow ponies instead of wolves this time, confirming that mount types are random. Then 1 final card for quality enhancement. The golden light that erupted was far more intense than anything from the level 2 enhancements. It swirled and lingered, building anticipation in everyone watching. A figure stepped out of the light, mounted on a magnificent snow-white warhorse a full head taller than the regular ponies. He wore dark cavalry armor trimmed with beast hide, carried a cavalry saber and an iron lance, and radiated absolute command presence. Snow Cavalry Commander. Level 3. Elite Commander Quality. He came with a special talent. Cavalry Coordination. 15% boost to all cavalry movement speed and charge power, plus dramatically improved formation stability. My worry about my talent being broken vanished instantly. The vending machine's basic cards were just low quality to begin with. That's why they couldn't enhance as high. My talent was fine. With this commander, all 70 cavalry in Peace Village could finally fight as a real unit, instead of just serving as scouts. Qin-Chi, reporting to Master. When we marched back into Peace Village, the reaction was electric. Shi Jian's eyes went wide seeing all the new soldiers, especially the 40 cavalry riders on snow ponies lined up in perfect formation. I introduced Qin-Chi, the new level 3 snow cavalry commander, and explained his talent, a 15% boost to all cavalry speed and charge power, plus dramatically tighter formations. Shi Jian was genuinely impressed, but I couldn't relax. Shadow 7 was still out there tracking in Lu, and I had zero information about the enemy's strength, distance, or plans. A full day passed with no word from Shadow 7. I tried not to worry. Lionfong territory was clearly far away, and deep reconnaissance takes time in dangerous territory. The next morning, I led the army west to clear the largest snow ghost colony we'd ever encountered, over 100 of them. This was our test for the new cavalry, and Qin-Chi delivered brilliantly. 70 riders swept across the snow like a razor-sharp blade, charging through the ghost horde in 2 devastating passes. Most ghosts died on the first 2 runs, and the infantry mopped up the rest. 0 deaths on our side, just a few scratches. The cavalry had completely changed what we could do. But after wiping out that colony, the Western Front went completely dead. Not a single snow ghost remained anywhere. Our crystal income dried up overnight. With no other option, I made a risky call. Send 3 elite squads into the southern mutant zone. Qin-Chi, Xiao-Chi, and Man-Tu each led a team, hunting isolated mutants while carefully avoiding the massive sleeping hordes. One day's work brought back 5,000 blue crystals, our biggest single-day haul ever. But the cost was devastating. 3 of my 10 level 2 axemen killed. 13 veteran soldiers dead. Qin-Chi had his arm torn open to the bone. Xiao-Chi's horse was corroded by mutant venom. Man-Tu nearly died after being surrounded. Only Xiao-Chi rushing to his rescue saved him. Worst of all, 50 soldiers moving through the southern zone had disturbed the sleeping mutant nests. Low rumbles echoed from the deep south. The ground trembled. The massive horde was beginning to stir. I stood at the village gate watching dark clouds of hostile energy rolling on the southern horizon. 5,000 crystals was a fortune, but if we'd accidentally triggered the cold surge early, it would all be meaningless. Fortunately, after a tense night, the south settled back down. But I knew I couldn't send anyone back there again. That door was closed. Now I was stuck. West was empty. South was too dangerous. Nearby nests were already cleared. The only stable crystal source left was hunting giant beasts in the northern basin for vending machine chances. Everything else was a gamble. And Shadow 7 still hadn't returned. On Shadow 7's 4th day away, I went back to the basin and hunted another giant beast. With archers this time, it only took 2 hours. Another vending machine dropped, confirming that killing these massive creatures has a high chance of triggering one. But it's not sustainable. These defenseless giants are rare, and the vending machine prices are steep. I spent all 8,000 crystals on soldier cards and activated them on the spot. Peace Village's army was now something real. 400 level 1 soldiers, 130 spearmen, 70 archers, 40 heavy infantry, 90 swordsmen, and 70 cavalry. 43 level 2 elite fighters including axemen, spearmen, and swordsmen, led by Bai as my personal guard captain. 3 level 3 commanders. Qin-Chi over swordsmen, Man-Tu over heavy infantry, and Xiao-Chi over cavalry. Shi-Jian at level 4 commanding the whole army. Ning Jia handling village administration with 30 spearmen for internal security. Standing on the command platform looking down at this organized force, I finally felt a sliver of confidence about facing Enlu. Then a massive blizzard hit, the worst since I'd arrived. Temperatures plummeted, visibility dropped to nothing. 30 miles out, Shadow 7 was dragging himself through knee-deep snow, leaving a trail of blood behind him. His black clothes were soaked with ice and blood. He was coughing up dark clots. His internal organs were damaged. But he kept going, clutching a bamboo tube with intelligence about Lionfong territory strapped to his back. This snow came at the right time, he whispered hoarsely. The blizzard would cover his tracks from any pursuers. Every step was agony. He'd been discovered, fought his way out, and was now racing back with information that could save Peace Village. He refused to fall. Back at the village gate, 2 guards were chatting about the extra meat rations I'd ordered for the blizzard day. Nobody expected trouble in weather this bad. Then one guard heard something. A stumbling black figure emerged from the white wall of snow, barely upright, swaying with every step. It's Commander Shadow 7. He's back. The other guard fired a signal flare without hesitation. Red light exploded across the sky, shattering the blizzard's silence. Lights flickered on across the village. Soldiers grabbed weapons. Every commander rushed toward the gate. Shadow 7 had made it home. The blizzard sealed us in, but the manor was warm and bright. Shadow 7 lay unconscious on a bed, barely alive. Old Ning, our only doctor among the civilians, checked him over and gave me the verdict. He'd survive. Massive blood loss, cold exposure, and total exhaustion. But the super wound medicine had stopped the bleeding. He'd need rest and herbal medicine to fight off the cold that had seeped into his body. I left 2 guards to watch over him, then led all my commanders into the main hall and shut the doors. In my hand was a bloodstained scroll, the last thing Shadow 7 had pressed into my palm before passing out. I expected military intelligence about Lionfong territory. What I found first was something far bigger. The scroll described a secret progression system for survivor lords in the Winter World. Every survivor starts with a stone house. Upgrade it to level 10 and it becomes a village, making you a first-tier lord. But after that, normal upgrade cards stop working. The only way to advance further is through something called the Lord's Heart. 3 known ways to get one. Destroy another Lord's territory core to collect Lord's Heart fragments. Trade extensively with winter merchants. The more you spend, the better their stock, and there's a tiny chance they'll carry a Lord's Heart. Or kill the leader-class beast that commands each cold surge wave. The room went dead silent. Then it clicked for everyone at once. And Lu wasn't just after our food. He wanted our Lord's Heart fragment. My commanders were buzzing with excitement. If we beat Lionfong territory, we could advance to a second-tier territory. I raised my hand. Calm down. Let's read the rest first. Winning comes before celebrating. The second half was Shadow 7's reconnaissance report on Lionfong territory, a first-tier territory similar in size to Peace Village. Civilian population under 50, all starving and miserable, clearly squeezed dry by Enlu. Their food supplies were completely gone. But militarily, they were formidable. Over 30 regular arrow towers plus 5 heavy crossbow towers surrounding the perimeter. 3 to 500 level 1 beast soldiers. Nearly 100 level 2 fighters. 5 level 3 warriors. 3 level 4 fighters, though Shadow 7 had killed 1, leaving 2. And 3 level 5 powerhouses, with Enlu himself being the strongest. Shenxi and Shi Jian relaxed slightly at the level 5 count. We'd already seen those 3 during Enlu's visit, so no surprises there. Then came the critical detail. From the level 4 beast soldier Shadow 7 had killed, he'd learned that Lionfong territory was completely out of food. This attack wouldn't be a raid. It would be an all-or-nothing assault. They had no retreat option. They'd fight to the death for our food, our territory, and our Lord's Heart. No one in the room was surprised. We'd all already known this would be a fight to the finish. I set the scroll down. Now let's discuss how we're going to win. The tension in the hall was suffocating. I broke the silence by addressing what worried me most. We'd never faced a level 5 fighter. We had no idea what that kind of power could do on a battlefield. I turned to Shi Jian, my army commander. What's your plan? He'd clearly been thinking about this since Enlu's visit. His analysis was sharp and logical. If level 5 warriors could truly destroy an entire village alone, Enlu would never have bothered with fake alliance talks. He would have just attacked. The fact that he hesitated means something here threatens him. Our arrow towers, our numbers, or both. Level 5 is still flesh and blood. They can be beaten. That made sense. I nodded. Shi Jian laid out the full battle plan. South was off limits, too many sleeping mutants. North had the grassland basin, but Enlu likely didn't know about it. Based on Shadow 7's intel, Lionfong territory sat to our east. That made the eastern front our primary defense line. His strategy, pure defense. Use our arrow towers and crossbow towers as the backbone. Let their ranged firepower chew through and lose forces before they ever reach our walls. Don't chase, don't overextend, just grind them down. For Enlu's 3 level 5 fighters, Shi Jian would personally lead the heavy infantry to pin them down in close combat, while archers poured concentrated fire from behind. Surround them with numbers and defense. Deny them the freedom to slaughter our troops. Qiuqi's 70 cavalry would handle the enemy's level 3 and level 4 officers, hit fast, cut off their command structure, then pull back before getting trapped. My heart was heavy. This plan was our best option, but the cost would be brutal. The heavy infantry tasked with containing 3 level 5 monsters, and the cavalry charging enemy elites. Both groups would take devastating losses. Possibly total. Master, this is the best we can do, Shi Jian said quietly. Unless their luck turns very bad, then we go with it, I said. Meanwhile, inside Lionfong territory, Enlu was facing his own crisis. His wolf general reported only 7 days of food remaining, and that was after cutting rations for the civilians completely. Enlu asked how long it would take to march to Peace Village. Normally 3 days, but with the blizzard, at least 5. 5 days of marching plus 7 days of food meant almost no margin for error. Then Enlu asked a question that made even his own general flinch. If we use the civilians as food, how many extra days? The wolf general's voice trembled. 2 days, and Lu didn't hesitate. Then that's what we'll do. He ordered the attack to launch in 3 days. 100 elite soldiers would stay behind to guard the territory. Everyone else would march on Peace Village. Looking down at the starving, skeletal civilians through his window, and Lu muttered to himself, "The weak exist to feed the strong. You're not even beast folk. This is simply nature." 3 days passed at Lionfong territory, and Lu slaughtered nearly 100 civilians for food, men, women, all of them, to feed his beast soldiers for the march. Shadow 7 had only seen 50 civilians during his scouting, but there were many more hidden away. Now they were all dead. The blood stench hung over the territory like a dark cloud, and Lu assembled his army. Over 600 beast folk soldiers, every one of them massive and terrifying. Pig-headed brutes, bull-headed warriors, all carrying heavy weapons like spiked clubs and war axes, muscles bulging, fangs bared. Individually, a single level 1 beast soldier could take on 3 human soldiers of the same level. That raw power was Enlu's biggest advantage over us. His territory was actually southeast of Peace Village, not due east. Shadow 7 had taken over a day to reach us, even at top speed. Enlu's bulky army would be much slower. And that's where his luck turned bad. The 600 beast soldiers made so much noise marching through the snow that they woke up every sleeping mutant nest along the way. By the first morning alone, they'd smashed through 3 nests. Nearly 3,000 mutants killed, 3,000 crystals gained. And Lu was thrilled, calling it a gift from heaven. His wolf general wasn't smiling. 11 soldiers dead, 9 seriously wounded, and with 0 medical supplies left, those 9 wouldn't survive 2 days. And Lu refused to waste the officer's special medicine on common troops. They're worthless. Keep moving. The afternoon was far worse. The mutants grew aggressive, red-eyed and fearless, attacking without any self-preservation instinct. A level 3 mutant bear erupted from the ground and crushed 2 soldiers into paste with a single swipe. The whole march became a bloody grinder. By nightfall, Enlu's army had destroyed 7 nests and killed over 5,000 mutants, earning 5,300 crystals. But 122 soldiers were casualties, 37 seriously wounded, 22 dead. His pristine 600-soldier force had lost 10% in a single day, including some level 2 fighters. Enlu finally realized how bad things were. The approaching cold surge was making the mutants far more violent than normal, even though it was still 2 months away. High-intensity fighting also meant his troops ate more, burning through his already critical food supply faster. He spent every crystal he'd earned at a vending machine that dropped, buying food and replacement soldiers instead of medicine, because medicine was too expensive. He ordered camp dug in deep with trenches and archers on watch all night. At dawn, they'd push at maximum speed toward Peace Village. From my side, I didn't know any of this yet. But every mutant nest Enlu's army destroyed on their march was one less nest that would threaten Peace Village during the cold surge. His misfortune was, in a strange way, working in our favor, weakening both the mutant threat and his own invasion force before he even reached our walls. While Enlu's army was fighting its way through the snow, Peace Village had become a fortress. 3 days of preparation under Shijian's command had transformed our defenses completely. Over 30 regular arrow towers ringed the village, with 5 heavy crossbow towers concentrated on the southeast, our expected front line. Between the towers and walls, we dug horse-trapping pits and laid beast-snaring ropes, specifically designed to break charging formations. Every detail was calculated to counter the beast folks' brute force tactics. 400 level 1 soldiers and 40-plus level 2 elites stood in formation, silent and ready. Man 2's heavy infantry guarded the main gate with an unbreakable shield wall. Chen Qi's swordsmen and axemen waited to plug any gaps. Qiu Qi's 70 cavalry hid on the flank, ready to strike. Ning Jia patrolled inside with 30 spearmen, keeping civilians calm. Then Bai rushed up the watchtower with great news. 3 days of hunting in the northern basin had stockpiled enough food for 3 months. And he'd triggered another vending machine. With 3,000 crystals saved up, I opened it and found 2 new card types, Level 2 Modeo Squad and Level 2 Warhammer Corps. Both devastating combat units. Exactly what I needed against beast folk. I bought 2 Modeo cards and 1 Warhammer card. The Warhammer card got quality enhancement. A massive warrior materialized, over 2 meters tall, arms like forged iron, carrying twin black hammers covered in runes. Taishan, reporting to Master, level 4, elite quality, with armor breaking and area of effect slam abilities. First Modeo card also got quality enhancement. Outstepped a tall, cold-eyed warrior holding a 12-foot blade that radiated killing intent. Lionfong, reporting to Master, level 4, elite quality, with 2 perfect talents. All Modeo troops under his command get sharper weapons, and his damage against charging enemies increases by 50%. Tailor-made to destroy and lose beast folk rushes. The last Modeo card got quantity enhancement. 10 level 2 Modeo soldiers, all benefiting from Lionfeng's weapon sharpening talent. With Taishan and Lionfong joining Shi Shadow 7, and our other commanders, Peace Village's high-end combat power had reached a new peak. I was staring out at the blizzard, feeling genuinely ready, when Shi burst in with urgent news. Shadow 7 reports, Lionfong Territory's army has been spotted 30 miles southeast, advancing at full speed. They'll reach us in 2 hours. Their troops appear wounded and bloodied. They've been fighting mutants the entire march. A cold smile crossed my face. They'd burned through food, lost soldiers, and exhausted themselves just getting here. I gave the order. Maximum alert. All towers armed. Traps activated. Modeo squad and Warhammer corps at the main gate. Cavalry hidden on the flanks. Every commander to position. I gripped the mountain slasher at my waist. Welcome Lionfong territory. We've been waiting. And Lu's army finally appeared on the horizon, battered but still dangerous. His wolf general spotted our village and reported they were 30 miles out. Despite losing about 150 soldiers to mutants during the march, Lu had found 2 vending machines along the way and recruited 200 human soldiers as cannon fodder. His total force was now around 650. His plan was simple and cruel. Send the human soldiers in first to absorb our arrow fire. Then charge with the real army once our ammunition was spent. 2 hours later, the attack began. Over 200 terrified human soldiers came running toward us, shoved forward by beast folk with blades at their backs. The moment they saw our 50-plus towers, their faces turned to pure despair. But Shi saw right through Lu's trick. He wants to waste our arrows on fodder. But he didn't plan for cavalry. The war horn sounded. Chi burst from the flank with 70 riders, smashing into the disorganized mob from the side. 2 devastating charges later, most of the human soldiers were down. The cavalry pulled back cleanly behind our walls before the beast army could react. And Lu went absolutely berserk. Cavalry? How do they have cavalry? He'd planned for arrows and walls, not for mounted warriors who could strike and vanish. Blind with rage, he threw every soldier forward at once. No formation, no strategy. Just a tidal wave of screaming beast folk charging our walls. Pig-headed brutes with axes, bull-headed warriors with clubs, all stampeding straight at us. Fire! Shi dropped the flag. 30-plus towers unleashed a storm of arrows. The remaining human fodder was wiped out instantly. But the beast soldiers trampled over the bodies without slowing down. Then they hit our traps, horse pits with sharpened stakes, trip ropes that sent them crashing face first into the snow where their own comrades trampled them to death. 2 level 4 beast generals led 100 level 2 fighters with a battering ram toward our main gate. That's when I played my new cards. The gate swung open. Taishan stepped out first, his twin black hammers swinging. One blow shattered their battering ram into splinters, and the shockwave sent nearby beast soldiers stumbling. Then Lionfong appeared with his 10 Modeo soldiers. Those massive blades, enhanced by his talent to be supernaturally sharp, carved through beast folk like paper. Even the thick-skinned, pig-headed warriors couldn't withstand them. In moments, over a dozen elite beast soldiers were cut down. Against charging enemies, Lionfeng's 50% damage boost was devastating. The beast army was stuck outside our walls, casualties mounting, unable to break through. The snow was piling up with their dead. That's when Lu finally lost it completely. He leaped off his giant bear mount, and the full pressure of a level 5 warrior exploded outward. The air itself grew heavy. Snow blasted away from him in every direction. Follow me. He roared at his two level 5 generals. All three charged toward our gate in a triangle formation, radiating killing intent so thick it was suffocating. They didn't consider anyone here a threat. Two level 4 defenders meant nothing to three level 5s. But Shi Jian had been waiting for exactly this moment. From the wall, he swung his command flag down and screamed, "Heavy crossbow towers, fire!" The 5 heavy crossbow towers that had been completely silent throughout the entire battle suddenly roared to life. Every arrow we'd fired so far had come from regular towers and archers. The heavy crossbows, our deadliest weapons, hadn't fired a single shot. Not one. Shi Jian had kept them hidden, saving them for this exact moment. Even I hadn't noticed. Brilliant. Massive armor-piercing bolts screamed through the air at terrifying speed, all converging on Enlu and his two generals. Enlu's confident charge turned to shock in an instant. He swung his axe to block, but the bolts targeting his generals were already in flight. 3 unstoppable level 5 warriors, caught in the open, suddenly pinned down by devastating crossbow fire they never saw coming. Their charge ground to a halt as they scrambled to defend themselves. We fired all the heavy crossbow towers at once. The thundering sound shook everything. 5 massive bolts, each tipped with armor-piercing iron, screamed through the air straight at Enlu and his two commanders. Enlu swung his axe to block, but the impact split his grip open and one bolt scraped deep into his shoulder, cutting to the bone. Wolfhead took a bolt clean through his shoulder pad, pinning into his flesh. Big Bear got the worst of it. One bolt went through his right leg, another shattered his axe. He collapsed into the snow. When Big Bear hit the ground, the whole battlefield froze for a second. Enlu couldn't believe it. He never expected a small level 1 village like ours to have nearly 10 heavy crossbow towers, more than his entire Lionfong territory owned. He screamed at his men to charge before the crossbows could reload. He even split one incoming bolt in half with his axe. The man was terrifyingly strong, but Shi Jian was already moving. He led the heavy armor squad out from behind our walls like a black flood. They locked shields together without a single gap, forming a steel wall around all 3 of them. No escape. Shi Jian gave the order, and the shields slammed forward, crushing their space down to nothing. Enlu went berserk. He chopped one of my armored soldiers clean in half, shield and all. But before he could take a single step, another soldier filled the gap. The formation held. Spears thrust in from every angle, slicing his arms, his chest, his stomach. Blood soaked through his armor. On the other side, Lionfong took his elite blade squad straight at Big Bear. With his peerless blade talent fully activated, all 11 long blades cut a grade sharper. Big Bear blocked with his axe, but the blades chewed it apart. His injured leg gave out, blood spraying everywhere. Then his axe shaft snapped in two. Taishan faced Wolfhead with his black warhammer, each swing carrying earth-shattering force. Wolfhead was a cunning type, not a brute. Speed was his game. But with his shoulder torn open and the shield wall boxing him in, he had no room to dodge. Taishan hammered him back step after step. A level 5 beast commander, beaten helpless by a level 4 human officer. I watched it all from the top of the crossbow tower. The tension in my chest finally loosened. The outcome was clear. Big Bear was done. No weapon, bleeding out, facing blades sharper than anything he could handle. Lionfeng's squad carved him apart strike by strike. Wolfhead was crumbling. Every clash with Taishan left new wounds. His strength was fading fast. And Enlu, strong as he was, had fallen into Shi Jian's trap. Shi Jian never fought him head-on. He just kept rotating fresh shields in, letting numbers drain Enlu's stamina. One soldier down, another stepped up. Enlu's overwhelming power meant nothing against endless walls of iron. I could see it in his eyes. Beneath the rage, despair was creeping in. 15 minutes. That's all it took. We paid a brutal price. Over 70 heavy infantry started the fight. Barely 20 were still standing. The elite blade squad lost more than half. Taishan and Lionfong were both wounded badly, moving slow, drenched in blood. Shi Jian had burned through every last bit of his stamina, holding the line. But it was worth it. We won. I rested my hand on the mountain cleaver at my waist and drew it slightly. Cold light flashed along the blade. I looked down at Enlu, trapped, exhausted, finished. "Time's up," I said. The crossbow towers hummed back to life. All 10 of them fully loaded, and aimed at the 3 exhausted beast commanders trapped in our formation. Onlu was drenched in blood, barely standing, using his axe as a crutch. He looked up at me on the tower, and all I saw in his eyes was pure despair. He tried to scream something about not accepting defeat, but before the words even left his mouth, several bolts punched straight through his skull. His massive body crashed into the snow. The Lord of Lionfong territory didn't even get to finish his last words. Big Bear went next. He had nothing left. No weapon, no strength, just that strange inner energy keeping him alive. But he couldn't dodge anymore. The bolts tore through his chest, and he dropped dead. Wolfhead was the same. Too hurt, too slow. A bolt hit him right in a vital spot, and he fell face down in the snow without a sound. All 3 level 5 beast commanders dead. The moment their leaders fell, the entire beast army shattered. The pig-headed and bull-headed soldiers just froze, staring at nothing. Some collapsed and started shaking. Others tried to run. The whole army fell apart in seconds. Qiu Qi shouted the charge order. 70 cavalry swept through the broken ranks like death itself, cutting down every elite beast soldier in their path. One of the 2 remaining level 4 beast officers got shot through the chest by a crossbow bolt. The other one barely managed to scramble out of the battlefield and disappear into the snow. He never looked back. I stood on top of the tower, looking down at the aftermath. The snow was dark red, broken weapons and bodies everywhere. This battle that would decide whether Peace Village lived or died. We won it completely. Then I noticed something. Near Onlu's body, a small crystal was glowing with faint light. A Lord's Heart fragment. I climbed down and picked it up. The moment my fingers touched it, a notification rang in my head. Level 1 Lord's Heart. Can upgrade territory to level 2. It wasn't really a surprise. I'd guessed before that Lionfong territory was 1 step away from reaching level 2. If Onlu had swallowed up our village, he would have completed his Lord's Heart. But instead, he died here and handed that final piece straight to me. I wondered what Lionfong territory looked like now without its lord, but my people were exhausted and wounded. Chasing after answers with a possibly ambushed road ahead wasn't worth the risk. I gave the order to clean up the battlefield first. The beast corpses were useless, but their weapons were solid. Good axes and maces could go straight to our soldiers. Broken ones could be melted down into farming tools. Nothing wasted. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Lionfong territory was already dying. Onlu had left 100 beast soldiers behind to guard it, led by a level 3 pighead named Tali. The guy was sitting inside a stone hut, chewing raw meat and cursing Wolfhead for leaving him behind while the others went to grab glory. Then the ground shook. The stone walls around him dissolved into thin air, just vanished, like someone deleted them. Tali stumbled outside and found nothing. The entire fortress, the walls, the buildings, all of it was gone. Without a Lord's Heart to hold it together, the territory simply ceased to exist. Before Tali could even process what happened, the horizon turned black. Mutant creatures, hundreds of them, came pouring across the snow like sharks smelling blood, shrieking with excitement. Tali screamed for his soldiers to form up, but it was already too late. No territory, no walls, no lord. 100 beast soldiers against an endless tide of monsters. They were buried in that snowfield. That's what a lord means. The lord is the only thing holding a territory together. If the territory falls but the lord lives, you can rebuild. But if the lord dies, everything disappears with him. I had no idea what happened to Lionfong territory after Onlu died. It was hundreds of miles away. Right now, all I cared about was the Lord's Heart in my hand. It glowed with a soft purple light. A prompt appeared in my mind. Did I want to use the level 1 Lord's Heart on Peace Village? There was a warning too. It said the Lord's Heart was extremely rare and to use it carefully. That told me it probably had other uses beyond just upgrading a territory. But my gut was screaming at me to upgrade now. Something told me it would benefit me personally. So I said yes. The crystal shot out of my palm like a purple rainbow, flying into the sky above the village before exploding into light. The whole sky changed color. Countless white specks drifted down like snow, covering everything. Houses, walls, farmland, arrow towers. The lights sank into the buildings and transformed them. Flimsy wooden houses became solid and sturdy, roofed with frost-proof tiles. Frozen farmland thawed and turned soft and rich. The arrow towers grew thicker and stronger, their gears gleaming with fine iron. The entire village expanded several times over. But the most impressive thing was the barrier. A warm white curtain of light rose along the edges of the territory, shielding everything inside. They called it the territory light. Anyone from our village standing inside, it would be protected from the cold and train a little faster. Anyone who didn't belong here would have their strength suppressed. The stronger they were, the harder the suppression hit. Now that felt like being a real lord. I turned my attention inward and felt two new abilities awaken. The first was Lord's power. I could rearrange any building inside my territory at will, though bigger changes needed longer cooldown, up to a month. The second was Lord's heart. I could receive strength feedback from my people. Anyone with loyalty above 90 would constantly feed a trickle of power back to me. I'd grow stronger without even training. But the real treasure was the side benefit. I could now see the loyalty rating of every single person in my territory. That changed everything. I'd never have to worry about a recruited soldier stabbing me in the back. I could trust the right people with real responsibility and develop the territory as fast as possible. I checked immediately. Shi Jian, Bai Yi, Qiu Qi, Qin Feng, Taishan. Every commander who bled for me in that battle sat at 95 or higher. Some were pushing toward the max absolute loyalists. Regular soldiers and villagers mostly hovered around 80. After fighting and surviving together, morale was rock solid. I caught myself smiling. Guess people like me after all. Then I shook it off. The great cold wave hadn't even started yet. No time to get cocky. And the loyalty was probably more about survival in this brutal frozen world than personal charm. The upgrades kept coming. Peace Village. No, from now on it was Peace Town. Every arrow tower and crossbow tower outside the walls jumped up a level. Better stability, longer range, stronger armor piercing. The defensive line was in a whole different league now. Civilian buildings leveled up twice. Houses, warehouses, tavern, even the public toilets. The place actually looked like a proper small town now, with neat rooftops and paved roads. The tavern was hilariously overpowered though. It was already high quality before, and after this upgrade, it looked like a flashy nightclub sitting in the middle of a rural village. Completely out of place. On top of that, I got 100 acres of fertile farmland, connecting to the original 50. Enough to feed a much bigger population come spring. The fish ponds expanded too, stocked with cold-resistant fish, another food source for free. The armory filled up with a batch of standard weapons. Nothing fancy, but free gear is free gear. The biggest change was the Lord's residence. My old wooden shack was gone. In its place stood a black stone castle, built from massive blocks, heavy and imposing. Guard towers and small arrow turrets ringed the outside, designed for a personal guard force. It was a fortress within a fortress. I stood on top of that castle, looking out over the new Peace Town with its glowing white barrier shimmering at the edges. Finally on the right track, I thought. Next steps were filling the town with more refugees and properly organizing the military. Being a level 2 lord also came with new information about how this frozen world worked for lords. It wouldn't feed anyone or kill any enemies, but it would help me plan better. I was about to call a meeting with my commanders when I slapped my forehead. I almost forgot. I'm completely broke. I laughed bitterly and used the Lord's heart ability to send a message directly into my commanders' minds. Go hunt the mutant creatures around us and collect blue crystals. They were startled at first, hearing my voice in their heads, but they figured out quickly it was a Lord ability and followed orders without question. Shi Jian was impressive as always. Within an hour, he had everyone organized and squads were heading out in every direction from Peace Town. All I had to do now was wait. The battle between Peace Town and Lionfong territory lasted only half a day, but the aftermath was bigger than any of us expected. Nearly 1,000 fighters clashing on open snow. The noise of weapons, screaming, crossbow bolts, all of it carried for miles across the empty plains. And the blood. Almost 700 bodies scattered across the battlefield, the smell thick in the cold air, drifting on the wind. That was the problem. The blood and noise were like ringing a dinner bell. Mutant creatures hiding in frozen ground, rock crevices, and deep forests started waking up early, drawn toward us. Scattered groups were already creeping closer. If we did nothing, they'd gather into a wave within days and hit our walls. Shi Jian saw it coming. The man's battlefield instincts were sharp. He'd already been thinking about it while counting our losses and calming the civilians. When my order came through to hunt mutants and gather blue crystals, he moved immediately. His deployment was clean and smart, matched to each unit's strengths. Qiuqi's cavalry took the south. They were the fastest, perfect for sweeping wide areas, picking off small groups of waking mutants, and mapping out where the nests and clusters were. Intelligence gathering and extermination in one sweep. Chen Qi's swordsmen handled the west. The terrain there was rough, ravines and forest, and his fighters were agile close combat specialists. The west side had mostly been snow ghost territory before, and we hadn't seen those in a while, so the threat level should be manageable. Taishan took the spearmen east. Open ground out there, ideal for his formation-style fighting. Lines of spears pushing forward, clearing everything in their path. That suited his bold, heavy-hitting style perfectly. Qinfeng and Bai headed together toward the Basin Plains. We'd already hunted most of the normal wildlife there before the war, so pickings were slim. Just a few powerful giant beasts left. Their job was to check for any disturbances from the battle, hunt whatever remained, and bring back meat and blue crystals to restock our supplies. Shijin stayed behind with Man 2 to hold the core defense. Heavy infantry and archers guarding the black stone castle and the walls. Ning Jia's patrol squad stayed inside the town too, keeping order, watching the civilians, making sure everyone stayed calm after the battle. Qiuqi moved out first. He gathered his remaining 40 riders, checked weapons, bows, horseshoes, and armor, then rode south into the snow the moment the afternoon winds eased up. They spread into a fan formation, pushing forward carefully, scanning everything. The battlefield traces were still visible. Half-buried beast soldier corpses, fading blood smell still hanging in the air, drawing faint growls from somewhere nearby. About 3 miles out, something screeched from behind a low hill. 7 or 8 twisted black shapes burst from the snow and charged straight at the cavalry. Mutant wolf dogs. Massive, several times bigger than normal wolves. Their fur was falling off, showing dark red muscle underneath. Fangs jutting out, drooling, red-eyed, legs bent at wrong angles, but terrifyingly fast. They stank, and they feared nothing. Qiuqi called for arrows. His riders wheeled around in perfect sync, knocked their bows, and let fly. The arrows punched through the creatures' thick hides, not killing them, but slowing them down, making them stumble and howl. Then Qiuqi drew his saber and charged. One clean swing split a wolf dog's skull in half. Black blood sprayed across the snow. The rest of his riders followed, working in pairs, slashing and stabbing, using their speed to weave through the pack. The mutants were vicious but mindless. No tactics, just blind rushing. Against trained cavalry, they didn't stand a chance. In minutes, all 7 or 8 were dead in the snow. But something bothered Qiuqi. These wolf dogs were stronger than the mutants we'd fought before. He thought back to the chewed-up beast soldier corpses we'd found earlier, and a grim theory formed in his mind. If these creatures could eat other living things and grow stronger from it, then every mutant we faced from here on would be tougher than the last. That wasn't good news at all. He ordered his men to collect the loot, record the creatures' traits, and keep moving. The cavalry pressed deeper into the southern snow, hoofbeats strangely quiet against the white ground. While I waited in Peace Town, my commanders were out handling business on every front. The reports that came back painted a clear picture. On the west side, Chen Qi led 50 swordsmen into territory we'd never explored before. Past the old snow ghost grounds, the land turned into ravines and dense forest, shallow snow, dead branches everywhere, no room for formations. Perfect terrain for his light-armored fighters, though. They moved in a spread-out line, barely making a sound. The forest was dead quiet. No birds, nothing. Then one of his men spotted dark, foul-smelling slime dripping down a tree trunk, and strange claw marks dug deep into the frozen dirt. Before they could react, the bushes exploded. A dozen mutant shadow rats came pouring out, ugly things bigger than house cats, hairless, gray skin, needle-sharp teeth. They were lightning fast and aimed straight for throats and wrists. Nasty ambush fighters. Chen Qi kept his men calm. They paired up and fought loose, short blades flashing, chopping at the rats' legs and heads. His swordsmen were built for exactly this kind of close jungle fighting. They killed every rat in minutes. But deeper in the forest, more screeching echoed back. The blood was drawing them in. Chen-Chi wiped the filth off his face and pushed forward. The shadow rats looked scary but weren't truly dangerous for his squad. Good practice and easy blue crystals. The east side was a completely different story. Wide open plains, flat as a table. Tai Shan marched out front with his hammer, 60 spearmen behind him in 3 tight rows, spear tips gleaming like a moving steel snake. They hadn't been out 15 minutes before they spotted trouble. A whole herd of mutant armored rhinos heading toward Peace Town. Thick skin, bone plates on their backs, built like battering rams. Tai Shan didn't flinch. He roared the order, and the spearmen locked formation, angling their spears low. When the rhinos charged in, 60 spears punched into eyes, bellies, every gap in the bone armor. The rhinos screamed and fell one after another, black blood everywhere. But the ones behind just trampled over the dead and kept coming. Mindless, Tai Shan lost patience and waited in himself, swinging that massive hammer. One hit caved in a rhino's skull. The shockwave from his armor-breaking talent staggered everything around him. His spearmen held the line behind him, pushing forward step by step, grinding the herd down. Open ground was perfect for spear formations. These thick-skinned mutants were basically target practice, and a gold mine of blue crystals. And with a level 4 commander swinging a warhammer up front, there was no real danger. Down south in the Basin Plains, Lionfong and Bai Yi took a mixed squad of 25, 5 elite blade soldiers and 20 others. We'd already hunted most of the normal wildlife there before the war, so the plains were nearly picked clean. Just scattered rabbits and small deer. To find real meat, they'd have to go deeper, where the giant beasts lived. The ones we'd deliberately avoided before. 5 miles in, they heard a deep rumble. A giant toothed mammoth stood in a clearing, twice the size of a normal mammoth, tusks over 2 meters long, skin rough as rock. Peak level 4 strength. One of the plains' apex predators. Bai got excited. That much meat could feed us for a long time. But it would be a tough fight. Lionfong studied the beast coldly and came up with a plan. No head-on attack. The hide was too thick. They'd circle behind, hit the leg joints with the blades, cripple it, then finish it off. Bai drew its attention from the front, while Lionfeng's blade squad crept through the dead grass to get behind it. The moment the mammoth reared up to stomp at Bai Yi's group, 6 blades came down on its rear leg joints all at once. With the peerless blade talent boosting their edge, the swords cut clean through skin, muscle, and tendons. The mammoth screamed and tilted sideways. Lionfong rushed in and drove his blade straight through its eye socket. Done. They started butchering immediately. But then something roared from deep inside the plains, a sound so vicious it gave everyone a splitting headache just from hearing it. Lionfeng's face changed instantly. At least level 5. We're leaving. Now. They grabbed the meat and ran. The roaring followed them, but stopped once they cleared the deep zone. Whatever that thing was, it didn't want to leave its territory. That told us the Basin Plains were far more dangerous than we'd assumed. Lionfong made the call to stay on the outer edges from now on. With bows and crossbows in hand, they could still bring back a decent haul without risking a fight they couldn't win. Bai Yi agreed without argument. He'd broken through to level 3 during the war, but compared to Lionfong, he was still far behind, and that unknown level 5 creature in the deep plains was in a whole different league. Days passed out on the snow plains, and all 4 squads kept pushing forward. Everything stayed within what Shi Jian and I could manage. Xiuqi's cavalry had the easiest time on the south line. The mutants waking up down there were mostly low-level stragglers, level 1 at best, no coordination, just blind aggression. His riders cut them down before they could even get close. Blue crystals poured in steadily. But standing on the balcony of my new black stone castle, watching the south, something nagged at me. It was too quiet. A battle that bloody should have woken up waves of mutants, not just scattered packs. The deep south was still dead silent. I tapped the railing, thinking it over. This couldn't just be about the cold. Maybe whatever brought us to this frozen world was holding the mutants back on purpose. Maybe these 3 months before the Great Cold Wave were meant as a grace period, a kind of beginner's bonus to let us build up before the real nightmare hit. The west line under Chen-Chi was surprisingly uneventful. The snow ghosts that used to terrorize that area were completely gone. Not a single one. His swordsmen spent days combing through forests and ravines, killing nothing but shadow rats. The rats bred fast and died easy. Not much of a threat, but they dropped blue crystals reliably. The West became our most worry-free operation. The East was brutal. What started as small groups of armored rhinos turned into massive herds over the next few days. These things were only level 1 technically, but their strength was pushing close to level 2. Thick bone plating, devastating charges. Regular spears could barely hurt them. By day 2, Taishan's spearmen were overwhelmed. The formation nearly broke. 20 elite spearmen dead in half a day. When word reached the town, Shi Jian grabbed the heavy infantry and archers and rushed out to reinforce. Shield walls stopped the charges while archers rained fire from behind. Together, they barely held the line. But the payoff matched the danger. Each armored rhino dropped several times more blue crystals than a normal level 1 mutant. After days of hard fighting, the haul from the east was the biggest of all 4 fronts. As for the Basin Plains, Qin Feng's report settled that quickly. He told me directly. Something at least level 5 was lurking in the deep zone, and its presence alone was terrifying. We couldn't handle that right now. Our food reserves were decent, and I could restock later through the winter merchant or a vending machine boosted by my talent. So I shut down all exploration of the Basin Plains immediately. No point poking something that could destroy us. 7 days of intense training later, I stood up from my practice session and exhaled a sharp breath that cut through the air like a blade. I clenched my fist. The difference was unmistakable. The Lord's heart power feedback was absurd. In just 1 week, my raw strength had jumped by 30%, and my frost-breathing technique had advanced another layer. I hadn't broken through to level 4 yet, but at this rate, 2 more weeks at most. I checked the territory info out of habit. Ice wasteland. Clear, 3 degrees Celsius. Above freezing. I almost laughed. This frozen world actually had warm days. Sunlight soaked into my skin, and for the first time in a while, I felt relaxed. My lord, your morning tea. A young maid brought over tea and pastries, her hands trembling slightly. She was still nervous around me. Set it down. She practically fled the room. I shook my head. I never cared about this kind of thing, but my people kept insisting. A level 2 territory needed proper staff in the Lord's castle, so I gave in. The pastries were actually good though, crispy and soft, made by a former restaurant apprentice who'd become our best cook. I'd assigned him to the castle kitchen. Then a smooth, polite voice appeared out of thin air across from me. Esteemed Lord Linhouchen, you seem to be doing quite well. I hope my visit isn't inconvenient. The winter merchant. I swallowed my pastry and smiled. Not at all. Perfect timing, actually. 7 days of clearing operations had nearly wiped out the threats around Peace Town, and we'd stockpiled more blue crystals than ever. Best possible moment for a trade. The merchant bowed elegantly. Then let's skip the pleasantries and begin a grand transaction. The familiar blue light screen unfolded between us. Before coming, I noticed your territory has reached level 2, he said with a knowing smile. So I brought some special items just for you. The first card appeared. Outpost, 3,000 blue crystals. A level 1 elite grade structure. Could be built anywhere outside the territory walls. Linked directly to the Lord's heart for instant communication, and housed 50 soldiers. Next, Scout Eagle, 1,000 blue crystals. Level 1 elite grade. Incredibly fast, immune to cold, never got lost. The perfect reconnaissance tool. Then the big one. Blood Fruit Grove, 5,000 blue crystals. Level 1, Lord grade. Once activated, it would grow a 1-acre orchard of blood fruits that sped up cultivation. Perfect for training regular soldiers faster. All 3 were exactly what Peacetown needed right now. But those prices made me wince. Even with our current wealth, this was going to hurt. Expensive, but I'm buying all of it. My mind was already made up. The vending machine cards were overpriced emergency goods. No good for long-term growth. The winter merchant was the only reliable source for special buildings and troop cards. I couldn't afford to pass this up. Outpost, Scout Eagle, Blood Fruit Grove. I'll take them all. I didn't hesitate. On top of those 3, I swept up basic civilian buildings, refugee recruitment tickets, and regular soldier cards. Anything that could strengthen the territory. In 15 minutes flat, I burned through nearly 50,000 blue crystals. 7 days of bloody fighting gone. I stared at the almost empty shop screen and sighed. If only I'd had more crystals. The merchant smiled and handed me a small gift box. You are a generous lord. I hope we'll meet again. We will, I said. He bowed and faded into the wind without another word. Something told me he wouldn't be back for a while, but he didn't say that out loud. I let out a long breath and rubbed my hands together. Time for the best part. Opening cards. I started with the building cards. 30 housing cards activated one after another, and with my quantity boost talent, 300 brand new tile-roofed homes rose from the ground, filling up the empty western side of Peacetown. The place finally started feeling like somewhere people actually lived. But looking at the full territory map in my mind, I shook my head. 300 houses sounded like a lot, but in a level 2 territory that had expanded several times over, it barely covered one corner. After subtracting land for barracks, workshops, farmland, towers, and the castle, the town could hold about 2,000 houses maximum. That meant a population cap around 10,000. I laughed at myself. 10,000? We've got maybe 100 civilians right now, not counting soldiers. Long way to go. Still, my hands kept moving. Public toilets came first. Sounds unglamorous, but on a frozen wasteland, sanitation was life or death. Disease could wipe us out faster than any monster. After my talent boost, 6 self-cleaning public toilets appeared. No staff needed, joining the 2 we already had. 8 total, spread evenly across town. No more plague risk. Next, for bathhouse cards. The territory barrier kept things warm inside, but outside it was still freezing. Getting sick from washing in the cold was a real danger. Now we had 4 spacious heated bathhouses, each fitting 100 people at once. Soldiers and civilians could clean up properly. I also bought cards for inns, taverns, rice shops, and general stores. After the war with Lionfong, several badly wounded soldiers were permanently disabled. They'd never fight again. These shops gave them a way to earn a living instead of being carried by the territory. It was the least I could do. Profit wasn't the point right now. Nobody in town had actual money. Everything ran on a work point system. Earn points, trade points, spend points. The shops were really just about settling injured veterans and bringing some order to daily life. Revenue could come later, once the town grew. Golden light rained down across Peacetown as each card activated. Houses, toilets, bathhouses, shops, one after another, filling in the gaps. What used to be a cold military outpost with barracks and farmland was starting to look like a real town. Alive, warm, human. Shi Jian and the other commanders watched from the top of the barracks. I could guess what they were thinking. They'd seen it before, but watching buildings appear from thin air never got old. The civilians dropped to their knees. Their loyalty to Peacetown grew even stronger without me having to say a word. All right, time to head to the barracks and activate the refugee cards. Shi Jian met me there with a salute. I told him to set up crowd control and bring Ning Jia over. I was about to summon a lot of people. Minutes later, Ning Jia arrived with 30 guards, former elite spearmen reassigned to internal security. Sharp, disciplined, ready for anything. Over 100 soldiers surrounded the training ground in tight formation, locking it down. I took a deep breath and pulled out the stack of refugee cards. 100 of them. The rules were simple. Anyone with family ties would appear together. With my talent multiplier, 100 cards meant 1,000 refugees. We had enough houses. I'd summon them in batches of 100 to keep things manageable. 10 cards shattered at once. Golden light flashed, and 100 figures materialized in the middle of the field. Ragged clothes, dirty faces, eyes full of panic and confusion. They shivered in this strange place they'd never seen. Children started crying. I nodded to Ning Jia. He stepped forward immediately, voice steady and strong. Don't be afraid. This is Peacetown. From today, you'll have a roof, food, and work. Follow the rules, and no one will harm you. His guards began registration right away. Names, ages, skills, family members. Some could chop wood. Some could weave. One knew basic medicine. Others were farmers, craftsmen, builders. None of them could fight. But these ordinary people were exactly what Peacetown needed most. Cards could build me an army overnight, but a real town needed real people, workers, growers, makers. The more the territory advanced, the more I understood that population was everything.